Chapter 392. Unable to hold back his anger, Yi Fei did not have a deep relationship with the 10th prince and Shifeng, but the two of them still treated him as a friend. They had even taken the risk of luring Shanglua away so that Yi Fei could enter the small world. Just because of this, Yi Fei could not let anything happen to the two of them. The 10th prince and Shifeng were captured by the Heavenly Yin Church. In the end, they were implicated by him. Yi Fei felt a strong anger in his heart. He coldly asked the guard, "Where did the Heavenly Yin Church take the 10th prince and Shifeng?" "They are at the pier outside. Many people saw them. I heard that the experts of the Heavenly Yin sect said that they wanted to use the two of them to force you to show yourself." The guard trembled as he spoke. The other experts of the Merchant Alliance were not any better. Yi Fei's aura was too terrifying. The anger of a 10th-level martial honorable was enough to make them, who were only 1st and 2nd-level martial honorables, feel fear. Yi Fei nodded his head at them to express his gratitude. Then, his body moved and he rushed towards the pier as fast as he could. "Heavenly Yin sect, even if you don't force me, I will still show myself." Yi Fei's lips curled into a cold smile. Seeing Yi Fei leave, Shanglua angrily chased after him. She had personally captured the 10th prince and Shifeng. Now that they had been taken away by the Heavenly Yin sect, it was clearly a provocation to the Merchant Alliance. Only after Yi Fei left did the experts of the Merchant Alliance breathe smoothly. They looked at Yi Fei's back in shock. "Did you feel it? Yi Fei's aura is even more terrifying than the 10th-level martial honorables we have seen." "That's right. When he is angry, I feel as though the sky is falling. Yi Fei is too heaven-defying. He has broken through to the 10th-level martial honorable in such a short time." The experts of the Merchant Alliance sighed. They had all heard that when Yi Fei had been chased out of the Sacred Lands half a year ago, he had only been a half-step martial honorable. In the end, after half a year, Yi Fei had reached rank 10 martial honorable realm. The speed at which his cultivation had increased made them tremble in fear. After the initial shock, these experts began to rejoice in the misfortune of others. "Ha, the Taishan Holy Land actually expelled such a genius. It seems that the Holy Land is really on the decline. Let's follow them and protect the young mistress. I reckon that the Heavenly Yin cult is going to be in trouble this time, ha." With the intention of watching a good show, these experts of the Merchant Alliance did not need Yi Fei to take a detour. They had already volunteered to rush to the front and lead the way for Yi Fei. At the dock of Constellation Island, 2 tall flagpoles were erected in the most conspicuous positions. The 10th prince and Shifeng were tied up and hung high on the flagpoles. Even if they did not suffer any physical pain, they would definitely lose face if they were hung up like this. Shifeng's face had already turned black from anger. The 10th prince was still unperturbed. He kept chatting with Shifeng and said, "Junior brother Shi, with our friendship with Yi Fei, if we ask to buy Luo Xianzi's undergarments, will he sell them to us at a cheaper price?" Shifeng's face turned even darker when he heard this. He did not like the 10th prince's attitude. "Bastards, behave yourselves. 10th prince, Shifeng, you two better pray that Yi Fei will come out to save you. Otherwise we will take your lives." A dozen true disciples of the Heavenly Yin cult surrounded the flagpoles. They did not allow anyone to come close. They were all true disciples of the Heavenly Yin cult, and all of them were martial honorables. They had all heard about the abnormalities in the constellation Sea and came to search for treasures. In the end, they did not find any treasures. Instead, they heard that Zhan Bo and the others had been killed by Yi Fei like chickens. The Heavenly Yin cult's disciples were all shocked. It was nothing if a normal true disciple died, but Zhan Bo was different. He was the disciple of one of the Golden Bone emissaries of the Heavenly Yin cult. After hearing the news of Zhan Bo's death, these disciples did not dare to be negligent. They hurriedly searched everywhere for Yi Fei. In the end, they did not dare to enter the Constellation sect's small world. However, at the entrance, they unexpectedly found the 10th Prince and Shi Feng being held captive by the experts of the Merchant Union. These people immediately had an idea. They forcefully snatched the 10th Prince and Shi Feng and tied them to the flagpoles to show everyone how powerful the Heavenly Een cult was. At the same time, they quickly sent the news of Jean Beau's death to the Golden Bone emissary, who was also Jean Beau's master, who happened to be in the chaotic Star City. At this moment, the Golden Bone emissary, a 10th stage martial honorable, was standing to the side with a gloomy expression. He was waiting for Yi Fei to not appear. When he thought about how the experts of the Heavenly Een cult had been killed by Yi Fei one after another, the Golden Bone emissary was finally enraged. "I'm not waiting anymore. I've waited for almost a month, and Yi Fei still hasn't appeared. If he's not hiding in fear, then he's already given up on these two." The old man's expression was gloomy as he stared at the 10th Prince and Shi Feng with an ominous glint in his eyes. The 10th Prince and Shi Feng had a bad premonition. They knew that it was useless to beg for mercy. The two of them cursed together. "Old bastard, you finally can't stand it anymore and want to torture us. As long as I frown, I'll be a grandson like you." The two's curses caused the expressions of the Heavenly Een cult's disciples to change. Then, they all flew into a rage. "Shut up! How dare you two insult the Honorable Lord Emissary? Today I'll let you taste pain." Bah! A Heavenly Een cult's disciple picked up a long whip in front of everyone and lashed out heavily. The 10th Prince's skin split open, but the 10th Prince still laughed loudly. "Grandson, haven't you eaten yet? How can you have such little strength? Damn it, they still dare to be stubborn. Beat them to death." Pa, pa, pa. After waiting for a long time, Yi Fei still hadn't appeared. The Heavenly Een cult's disciples had been suppressing their anger for a long time, so they took this opportunity to vent it all. The dozen or so leather whips were like gusts of wind, causing the air to howl. The 10th Prince and Shi Feng could still continue to curse at first, but as the whips became heavier and heavier, their true essence was sealed, so they still felt intense pain. Their bodies couldn't help but start to spasm. Even so, the 10th Prince and Shi Feng were still laughing. They weren't willing to show any weakness in front of the enemy. "Bah! If you have the guts, then kill us. Sooner or later, the Taishan Holy Land will destroy your Heavenly Een cult." Shi Feng spat out a mouthful of blood, which coincidentally landed on the face of a Heavenly Een cult's disciple. That disciple's face was filled with rage. The whip in his hand suddenly turned into a spear and ruthlessly stabbed at Shi Feng's body. He sneered, "You're courting death. I don't believe that my torture won't hurt you. Bastard, if you have the guts, then come at me." The 10th Prince was anxious. He clearly knew that the Heavenly Een cult's disciples wanted to kill Shi Feng. If Shi Feng was hit by this whip, he would definitely be seriously injured. "Ha ha, don't worry. It will definitely be your turn later. Of course, if you're afraid of death, then loudly beg for mercy now. Tell everyone that you know your mistake and quickly ask for the Lord Emissary's forgiveness." These disciples of the Heavenly Een cult had deliberately slowed down their speed in order to create the greatest fear for the 10th Prince and Shi Feng. The Golden Bone emissary of the Heavenly Een cult had watched all of this indifferently as they attacked. He didn't care about the lives of these two people at all. Chapter 393. Suppression, You're Courting Death. Whoosh, whoosh. Seeing that the 10th Prince and Shi Feng were still unwilling to lower their heads, the Heavenly Een cult's disciples felt extremely displeased. Thus, they didn't say anything. They only prepared to stab 2 bloody holes in the 10th Prince and Shi Feng's bodies to make them bleed. "All of you, stop." Yi Fei rushed over from afar and happened to see this scene. Without hesitation, he activated the Greater Void Step. Even though he had only mastered the basics of it, With Yi Fei's cultivation of the 10th layer martial highness realm, he was able to tear the space apart and appear before the 10th prince and Shifeng. He grabbed the two whips with his bare hands and pulled. The whips were already in Yi Fei's hands. Then, Yi Fei grabbed the whips and lashed them at the two disciples of the heavenly Yin religion. Boom! Before the two disciples of the heavenly Yin religion could react, they felt a sharp pain in their bodies. Then, their bodies were torn to pieces by the whips and they died on the ground. No way, as soon as Yi Fei appeared, he whipped two of our rank 3 martial honorable senior brothers to death. The other disciples of the heavenly Yin sect were so frightened that their faces turned pale. They threw away the whips in their hands and retreated. The cold envoy of Golden Bones was also frightened by Yi Fei's ruthlessness. Then, he could not help but stare at Yi Fei in shock, as if he had seen a ghost. Rank 10 Martial Honorable Realm, how is this possible? If the envoy of Golden Bones remembered correctly, Yi Fei was only a half-step Martial Honorable when he was being chased by the heavenly Yin religion. He had used all kinds of shameless tricks to kill the envoy of heavenly Yin religion. How long had it been? In just half a year, Yi Fei's cultivation had risen to such a level. Even if he was riding on a rocket, it would not be so fast. The envoy of Golden Bones' face was full of shock. As for the disciples of the heavenly Yin religion, they were almost scared to death by Yi Fei's cultivation. Ignoring the shock of these people, Yi Fei immediately broke the flagpole after killing the two disciples and saved the 10th prince and Shifeng. 10th Prince, Shifeng, I'm sorry. I've implicated you again. Yi Fei looked at the wounds on their bodies and felt guilty. Then, he looked at the disciples of the heavenly Yin cult and became furious. It's okay. Even if you weren't involved, we were destined to be at a disadvantage when we encountered the heavenly Yin sect. If you feel guilty, don't forget to sell Luo Xianzi's clothes to me at a cheaper price. The 10th prince endured the pain and didn't forget to joke with Yi Fei. Shifeng did not say anything as he sized up Yi Fei in shock. You've reached level 10 Martial Honorable? That's right, I'm already a rank 10 Martial Honorable. Yi Fei nodded. However, he didn't know what kind of impact his words had on the people present. Guessing was one thing, but it was another when the guesses were confirmed by the person themselves. The spectating martial artists all looked at Yi Fei in shock and awe. In just half a year, Yi Fei had gone from half-step Martial Honorable to level 10 Martial Honorable. Just his cultivation speed alone was enough to kill countless people present. I didn't expect this Yi Fei to be so monstrous. No wonder he could kill Nangong Long. No wonder he could kill my disciple. Unfortunately, he's not a member of the heavenly Yin cult. He must die. When Envoy Golden Bone heard Yi Fei personally admit his cultivation after his initial shock, he couldn't suppress the thick killing intent that surged in his heart. Kill. When the Golden Bone envoy saw that Yi Fei dared to ignore him and talk to the 10th prince and Shifeng, a cold smile flashed in his eyes. Suddenly, he charged at Yi Fei. A huge white bone claw appeared in the sky. It carried a destructive aura as it struck down at Yi Fei. However, the Golden Bone envoy continued to attack. He sent out 3 white bone claw attacks in one go. He wanted to take the opportunity to kill the 10th prince and Shifeng as well. The 10th prince and Shifeng are both outstanding geniuses of the great mystery sacred ground. They will definitely become great enemies of the heavenly Yin cult in the future. Since I've encountered them, I'll kill them together to prevent future troubles. The Golden Bone envoy was very calculative. Even though the Golden Bone envoy knew that Yi Fei had broken through to rank 10 Martial Honorable, he didn't take Yi Fei seriously. He could tell that Yi Fei's rapid breakthrough meant that his foundation was unstable. He was no match for a veteran rank 10 Martial Honorable like him, who had been cultivating for hundreds of years. Some of the spectating Martial Honorables had the same opinion as the Golden Bone envoy. The 10th prince and Shifeng ignored their injuries and hurriedly urged Yi Fei, Yi Fei, run. It doesn't matter if we die. Avenge us. Ha ha, run? You're just a clown. 10th Prince, Shi Feng, wait a moment. Watch me kill this old demon and avenge you. Whoosh! When Yi Fei saw the Golden Bone Envoy attack, his body flashed and he threw a punch at the sky. This time, Yi Fei didn't use his sword. He still used the Heavenly Een cult's true martial skill, the Sky Demon Kill. Rumble! The pitch-black demonic fist was thrown into the sky by Yi Fei. Now that he was a rank 10 martial honorable, the Sky Demon Kill's power was terrifying. The Golden Bone Envoy's 3 white bone claw attacks were instantly shattered. The Sky Demon Kill is the true martial skill of the Heavenly Een cult. You bastard, you deserve to die. You must be killed. The Golden Bone Emissary did not expect Yi Fei to be so heaven-defying when he stepped into the 10th level of the martial honorable realm in half a year. He had even secretly learned the true martial arts of the Tianyin sect and used it to deal with the Golden Bone Emissary. Golden Bone Emissary's face quickly turned ashen with poisonous gas. Then, the poisonous gas turned into a colorful poisonous palm that charged at Yi Fei. 5 Poison Sky Net. Sky Demon 100 Split. Yi Fei didn't show any weakness. He activated the Battle Demon Golden Body and charged at the Golden Bone Envoy. The two of them instantly engaged in a fierce battle that shook the entire island. The most terrifying thing was that Yi Fei didn't use his sword against the experienced Golden Bone Envoy. He continued to use the Sky Demon Kill to exchange blows with the Golden Bone Envoy. When the Golden Bone Envoy used the poisonous palm, Yi Fei used the demonic fist. When the Golden Bone Envoy released his martial intent, Yi Fei also released his martial intent. The 60% Slaughter Fist intent and the Golden Bone Emissary's 60% Poison martial will continued to clash in the sky. More and more intense explosions occurred, and the Heavenly Een cult's disciples almost fainted from fright. It was already shocking that Yi Fei could use the Sky Demon Kill. What was even more terrifying was that Yi Fei also had the same Slaughter Fist intent as the Golden Bone Envoy. 60% Slaughter Fist intent? Oh my god! What did Yi Fei experience in the small world? It's only been a month and he's become so strong. Shi Feng was shocked. Chapter 394. Directly exploding. Shi Feng felt that what the 10th Prince said was right. Compared to Yi Fei, who was rapidly growing, they were just looking for trouble. The two of them could only stare closely at the battlefield, at the figures still fighting. Rumble! The ground of the island shook more and more violently. Yi Fei and the envoy of Golden Bones had only exchanged a few dozen moves, but the ground they were standing on had already sunk from their attacks. Soon, it had become a huge valley. Even so, the two of them were still locked in battle. Neither of them could do anything to the other. The envoy of Golden Bones had thought that Yi Fei's foundation would be very weak since he had broken through so quickly, and he wouldn't be able to fully display the strength of a 10th-level martial saint. After exchanging blows, the envoy of Golden Bones realized how wrong he had been. Against a veteran 10th-level expert, Yi Fei's foundation didn't show any signs of being unstable. His Sky Demon Kill was even executed to perfection. What was even more frightening was Yi Fei's Battle Demon Golden Body. Before the Demon Emperor had left, he had imparted the entire Demon Emperor Sutra to Yi Fei. After obtaining the complete Demon Emperor Sutra, Yi Fei's Battle Demon Golden Body had become even more powerful. He wasn't afraid of the envoy of Golden Bones' poisonous palm attacks at all. He charged forward and punched the envoy of Golden Bones so hard that he didn't even have time to breathe. However, the envoy of Golden Bones was worthy of being an expert of the older generation. When he realized that he couldn't defeat Yi Fei with his bare hands, he took the time to release many poisonous insects. They densely bit Yi Fei's body in an attempt to crush Yi Fei's battle demon golden body and cause damage to Yi Fei. The many cultivators watching the battle were frightened. They hurriedly retreated and cursed the heavenly Yin Church for being despicable and shameless. They had actually released poisonous insects to bite Yi Fei in a one-on-one battle. Then, these people were shocked to see that no matter how the poisonous insects bit and hissed at Yi Fei's body, they couldn't do anything to Yi Fei's battle demon golden body. Instead, Yi Fei took advantage of the envoy of Golden Bone's release of poisonous insects to suddenly punch him. Crack! The miserable cries of the Golden Bone emissary could be heard throughout the entire arena. There were also sounds of bones being broken. This frightened the spectating cultivators, causing them to suck in a breath of cold air. At this point, everyone knew that Yi Fei's foundation wasn't shaky due to his rapid improvement. Instead, he was gradually gaining the upper hand in his battle with the Golden Bone envoy. If such a situation was allowed to continue, the Golden Bone emissary, a veteran expert, might be defeated by Yi Fei's heavenly demon kill that he had secretly learned. It would be embarrassing and even more embarrassing. TSK, this Yi Fei is not simple. If this continues, even the Golden Bone envoy will not be his match. This junior is simply a monster. The battle was not over yet. The martial saints who were watching the battle were not stingy with their praises for Yi Fei when they mentioned the expected outcome. Bastard, that Yi Fei is just a piece of trash. His talent is low and he doesn't even have a special constitution. What kind of freak is he? He's more like trash. The true disciples of the Dark Sky sect were furious. They all started shouting to cheer for the Golden Bone envoy. However, they didn't know that their words had the opposite effect. What? Yi Fei doesn't even have a special constitution and his talent isn't high? I seem to have heard of this before. It is said that Yi Fei is only a rank 1 Earth grade talent. Later on, he offended Nanruofeng and was forced to leave the Taishan sacred ground. Among the crowd, there were some cultivators who were on good terms with the Taishan sacred ground. They spread the news of Yi Fei that they had heard. Instantly, everyone was shocked. Without super talent or a special constitution, this meant that Yi Fei was the most ordinary cultivator. There wasn't much difference between him and the rest of the people present. Even so, Yi Fei had been able to advance by leaps and bounds. In just half a year, he had risen to rank 10 martial saint and was now able to suppress the Golden Bone envoy. How valiant and heaven-defying was this! Even if Yi Fei wasn't a godly talent in the eyes of the crowd, the current Yi Fei was definitely more frightening than a godly talent. After all, ordinary cultivators were the most common in the martial world. When everyone saw an ordinary cultivator do something that only a godly talent could do with their own eyes, many people became excited. Wow, I have decided that I will become a strong cultivator like Yi Fei in the future. From now on, Yi Fei will be my idol. Idol, come on, kill that old demon. Fei, I can't take it anymore. I feel like I have fallen in love with him. Father, I don't care. Later, help me ask Yi Fei for my hand in marriage. I'm willing to be his concubine. A sweet-looking young girl pulled at her father, who was a rank 10 martial saint, and begged him. When he heard that cry, Yi Fei immediately broke out in a cold sweat. This was even more painful than when he had been hit by the Golden Bone envoy. The Golden Bone envoy had already grasped Yi Fei's weakness. Haha, die, kid. I don't care if you are an ordinary cultivator or a godly talent. I will kill you. Poof! The Golden Bone envoy's palm turned into a ghastly white bone. He thought that his claw would be able to tear Yi Fei open. Even if Yi Fei didn't die, he would be severely injured. Boom! Yi Fei activated the Devil Emperor's scripture and did not dodge. He exchanged injuries with the Golden Bone envoy. The Golden Bone envoy's sharp claws only managed to tear apart Yi Fei's battle demon golden body. Before he could cause any harm to Yi Fei's body, a huge black fist had already smashed into the Golden Bone Envoy's face. One could clearly see that the Golden Bone Envoy's face had caved in. The bridge of his nose and the teeth in his mouth had been sent flying. It's over. Yi Fei's defense is too terrifying. Even a rank 10 martial saint would not be able to break through it in a short time. A martial saint stared at Yi Fei's newly formed golden body as if he was facing a great enemy. The cries of the heavenly Yin cult's disciples had completely disappeared. Their eyes were wide open and their necks were stretched out. They were like a flock of silent ducks, unable to make a sound for a long time. The Golden Bone Envoy had actually been defeated. Furthermore, he had been defeated by a junior who had secretly learned the heavenly Yin cult's martial arts. If this news were to spread, the entire heavenly Yin cult would become the laughingstock of the northern region. At the very least, the 10th Prince and Shi Feng were laughing happily. The little girl in Shangluo was happily eating the spirit fruits offered by some young genius. She ate happily and cheered for Yi Fei while she was at it. The Golden Bone Envoy, who had been sent flying, stood up shakily. When he felt the intense pain on his face and the broken teeth on the ground, even though he had lived for over 100 years, the Golden Bone Envoy was so angry that he vomited blood. Not only were his lungs about to explode, even his body was about to explode. I won't forgive you. This old man will definitely not forgive you. Even if I die, this old man will not let you continue to grow. The Golden Bone Envoy had decided to risk his life. Even if he had to self-detonate, he had to kill Yi Fei. Otherwise, if Yi Fei continued to grow, he would definitely become the most terrifying enemy of the heavenly Yin cult. Kill me! Yi Fei looked at the Golden Bone Envoy, whose face was bruised and swollen, and laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Yi Fei instantly executed the Great Void Step. He had already dodged the Golden Bone Envoy's final attack and appeared behind him. Then, before the Golden Bone Envoy could self-detonate, puff! Chapter 395. Not a single one was spared. Hiss! The entire place was filled with shock. Many people looked at Yi Fei with eyes that were filled with terror. Everyone expected that Envoy Goldbone might not be a match for Yi Fei. Few people expected that Yi Fei would kill a core elder of the heavenly Yin cult without any hesitation. Heavens, even Envoy Goldbone was killed. Perhaps it was a mistake for our heavenly Yin cult to provoke Yi Fei. The death of Envoy Goldbone terrified the heavenly Yin cult's true disciples. Not only did they not dare to rush forward to avenge Envoy Goldbone, but they were so scared that they did not even dare to breathe loudly. They lowered their heads, muffled their voices, and turned around to flee. Stop! Weren't you guys beating me and Shi Feng to your heart's content? Why aren't you fighting now? This prince is standing right in front of you. Why aren't you fighting? The 10th prince did not forget that before Yi Fei came, he and Shi Feng had been beaten up by the disciples of the heavenly Yin cult. While the Golden Bone emissary was still alive, the 10th prince could not vent his anger. When Yi Fei killed Envoy Goldbone and gained confidence, the 10th prince and Shi Feng could not help but want to take revenge. The two of them stepped forward together. They faced a dozen heavenly Yin cult's true disciples at the same time without any fear. If it were any other place, any one of these true disciples would be enough to give the 10th prince and Shi Feng a hard time. However, it was different now. They had Yi Fei's support. The 10th prince and Shi Feng felt especially confident. Hurry up and kneel down and surrender, the 10th prince shouted. The faces of the heavenly Yin cult's true disciples darkened. When they saw Yi Fei walking over with Envoy Goldbone's head, they were so scared that their legs trembled. They subconsciously began to beg for mercy. Hero Yi, please spare us. We're all small fries. It's not worthwhile to dirty your hands. Just a moment ago they were still high and mighty, and they considered it an honor to become a true disciple of the heavenly Yin cult. but now they wished they could betray the cult on the spot. Yi Fei couldn't be bothered with these people. Since his level was different, his methods would also be different. If it were half a year ago, Yi Fei would have killed every single one of these true disciples he encountered, eliminating all future troubles in advance. But now, these first and second level martial honorables were nothing in Yi Fei's eyes. He only had one goal now, and that was to become a martial king. Yi Fei casually tossed the golden bone emissary's head in front of these people, causing them to tremble in fear. At the same time, he said to the 10th Prince and Shifeng, "You guys decide how to deal with these people. We make the decision?" The 10th Prince and Shifeng smiled bitterly. They felt that the gap between them and Yi Fei was getting bigger and bigger. The 10th Prince thought for a moment and said, "Let them scram." The Heavenly Yin cult was very powerful and had gradually surpassed the Taishan Holy Land. Yi Fei could kill the Heavenly Yin cult's emissary without any hesitation, but they didn't have the guts. Although they wanted to kill them, the 10th Prince and Shifeng didn't dare to do it. "All right, since you say so, I'll spare their lives." Yi Fei nodded. He vaguely understood that the 10th Prince and Shifeng didn't dare to offend the Heavenly Yin cult too much. He couldn't help but sigh. Even the 10th Prince and Shifeng were so afraid of the Heavenly Yin cult. It was no wonder that Nan Ruofeng had gone against the tide and sacrificed Zhao to reconcile with the Heavenly Yin cult. Not many people in the Taishan Holy Land dared to oppose him. "Many thanks, Hero Yi. We'll scram immediately." The Heavenly Yin cult disciples could tell that the 10th Prince and Shifeng were afraid of the Heavenly Yin cult. Although they were terrified on the surface, they were very pleased with themselves. They reckoned that once they escaped, they would immediately become insufferably arrogant again. At this moment, Yi Fei suddenly said coldly, "Wait, did I say you can leave like this? Hand over your space bags and then destroy your dantians." Boom. Yi Fei's words were like a clap of thunder that shocked the Heavenly Yin cult disciples so much that their faces turned deathly pale. Did they mishear? Yi Fei not only wanted to steal their space bags, but he also wanted them to destroy their dantians? "Fuck you! Yi Fei, don't go too far. We'll meet again in the future." Of course, the Heavenly Yin cult's true disciples were not willing to become cripples. They were all high and mighty martial saints. They were planning to escape from this place and find an opportunity to madly take revenge on Yi Fei, the 10th Prince and Shifeng. How could they destroy their dantian? Thus, the dozen or so Heavenly Yin cult disciples immediately scattered as fast as they could, preparing to flee for their lives. Yi Fei only sneered when he saw this, as if he had already expected this. He glanced at Shanglua, who was watching the show from afar. Shanglua's young miss was no pushover. She clapped her hands and the Merchant Union's experts and a large group of young geniuses all rushed forward, driving the Heavenly Yin cult disciples back. "Fairy Luo, what is the meaning of this? Our Heavenly Yin cult has no enmity with your Merchant Union. Why are you obstructing us?" The Heavenly Yin cult disciples had unsightly expressions as they questioned Shanglua. When Shanglua heard this, she valiantly threw a piece of melon skin at one of the Heavenly Yin cult disciples' faces. She placed her hands on her hips and said domineeringly, "If you have no enmity with me, then why did you injure my guards and snatch away the 2 criminals that I personally captured?" When the 10th Prince and Shifeng heard that Shanglua was treating them as criminals, they felt like vomiting blood. The Heavenly Yin cult disciples wanted to cry, but no tears came out. If they had known that Shanglua was as difficult to deal with as Yi Fei, they would not have tried to snatch people from the Merchant Union. These despairing Heavenly Yin cult disciples could only hand over their space bags under the pressure of the Merchant Union and Yi Fei. Then, they painfully destroyed their dantians, turning from cultivators to ordinary people. "Yi Fei, we were wrong. We should not have let these people go because we were afraid of the heavenly Een cult. The 10th Prince and Shi Feng walked over to Yi Fei, their faces full of shame. It's not your fault. The Taishan Holy Land has been weak for too long. Many of its disciples and elders have lost the courage of cultivators. Yi Fei comforted the two of them. These words also shocked the 10th Prince and Shi Feng. Yes, cultivators should be indomitable and fearless. They should fight against the heavens, the earth, and people. However, the two of them had been influenced by the environment of the Taishan Holy Land. They had become timid and had completely forgotten their original intention of practicing martial arts. Shi Feng sighed and said, Yi Fei, I finally understand why we are not as good as you. It is not because of the difference in talent, but because our cultivators' hearts are not as good as yours. The 10th Prince suddenly stomped his foot angrily and said, I finally understand. As long as Nanruofeng is in charge of the Holy Land, our Taishan Holy Land will sooner or later become as weak as sheep. Yi Fei, why don't you come with us this time? With your current strength and our help, you can definitely compete with Nanruofeng as an equal. Compete with him as an equal? Hearing the 10th Prince's words, Yi Fei revealed a playful smile. In fact, with his current strength, he could not only compete with Nanruofeng as an equal. Once he took out his divine weapon, even a 10th realm martial king expert would be scared witless. Chapter 396. Leave. 10th Prince, thank you for your kind intentions, but now is not the time for me to go back. There is still half a year. In this half a year, I can still become stronger. In the end, Yi Fei still refused the 10th Prince's good intentions. Why? The 10th Prince did not understand. Even though Yi Fei was very strong now, he was still too weak compared to the heavenly Een sect. If he did not return to the Holy Land, what if something happened to Yi Fei on his journey to gain experience? The 10th Prince and Shi Feng did not want the Holy Land to finally have a genius who could compete with Nanruofeng to die halfway. Yi Fei could see that the 10th Prince and Shi Feng were the ones who truly cared about the Holy Land. However, Yi Fei also had his own plans. Whether it was the sacred weapon or the demon emperor, they were all external forces. Yi Fei did not want to become someone who only relied on external forces. That would be no different from Huang Shi, the second generation of the Holy Land. Compared to relying on the sacred weapon to show off, Yi Fei preferred to rely on his own strength to defeat his opponent and then completely trample Nanruofeng under his feet. With this goal in mind, Yi Fei worked so hard. There is still half a year left. I must break through to the martial king realm in half a year. At that time, the demon emperor should have recovered his strength. Yi Fei raised his eyes and looked in the direction of the Taishan Holy Land. Then, he looked at the true disciples of the heavenly Een sect who were dispirited and had their cultivations destroyed. A cold light flashed in his eyes. This time, he did not kill these people out of respect for the 10th Prince and Shi Feng. However, this did not mean that he would be merciful. There is still half a year left. Yi Fei clenched his fists tightly. The surrounding cultivators also looked at Yi Fei nervously. They were shocked by Yi Fei's strength and were also afraid of Yi Fei's methods. Many people had already made up their minds, or secretly warned their disciples that in the future, even if they had to make an enemy out of anyone, it would be best not to make an enemy out of Yi Fei. This Yi Fei is too scary. That's right. He killed the Golden Bone Envoy just like that. No matter who I offend in the future, I can't afford to offend such a ruthless person. I reckon that the heavenly Een cult is going to cry this time. They lost a Golden Bone emissary, and their true inheritor suffered even more disastrous losses. If the heavenly Een cult master finds out about this, he might even personally take action out of anger. I heard that the sect master of the heavenly Een sect has already stepped into the 12th level of the martial saint realm. Some cultivators who were on good terms with the heavenly Een sect whispered this news. The warriors who had been talking about the heavenly Een cult suddenly became silent. Seeing that there was no more drama to watch, the warriors scattered and went back to their own business. Even the young girl who wanted to be Yi Fei's mistress was forcefully dragged away by her father. What kind of joke was this? No matter how strong Yi Fei was, he was still only one person. Now that Yi Fei had offended the heavenly Een cult, what kind of disaster would it be if he forced the heavenly Een cult master to take action? No one thought that Yi Fei would be able to survive under the wrath of the heavenly Een cult master. Thus, no matter how strong Yi Fei was, no one dared to approach Yi Fei. On such a large island, there were hundreds of cultivators. The only ones who dared to stand with Yi Fei were the 10th prince and Shifeng. Of course, Shanglua did not count. This little girl was purely here to watch the show. I didn't expect this Yi Fei to be so strong. Damn it, that martial monarch must have helped him mature the blood bodhi, allowing him to break through to the 10th level of the martial saint realm so quickly. At the edge of the crowd, a one-eyed old man stared at Yi Fei, who was talking to the 10th prince, and gritted his teeth. This old man looked very unremarkable. He only had one eye and was very old. His strength was only at the first level of the martial saint realm. On this constellation island, where experts gathered, he could not even be considered an expert. The strange thing was that when facing Yi Fei, not only was this old man not afraid, his eyes even flashed with a blood-like red light. This old man was none other than the protector of the blood demon sect, the blood-robed martial king. The blood demon sect's cultivation technique was truly strange. It was said that if one's blood did not dry up, they could be reborn from a single drop of blood. Even if the blood-robed martial king was not that exaggerated, after the demon emperor blew up half of his body, the blood-robed martial king was still able to escape the pursuit of third master Shang and possess the body of this one-eyed old man. This showed the blood-robed martial king's ability. Originally, after the successful possession, the blood-robed martial king was afraid that the martial monarch would continue to pursue him. He had planned to immediately escape from the constellation sea. In the end, he unexpectedly saw the battle between Yi Fei and the Golden Bone emissary. There was also no sign of the powerful martial monarch beside Yi Fei. Immediately, the blood-robed martial king became extremely unwilling. If Yi Fei had not released the martial monarch's remnant soul, how could he, the blood-robed martial king, have fallen to such a state? Even the most important blood bodhi of the blood demon sect had been refined and absorbed by Yi Fei, boosting Yi Fei's cultivation for nothing. Every time he thought about it, the blood-robed martial king became angry. However, the blood-robed martial king did not immediately attack Yi Fei. Instead, he quietly hid himself to prevent anyone from discovering him. On the other side, the conversation between Yi Fei and the other two had also come to an end. Seeing that no matter how much he tried to persuade Yi Fei, he had no intention of returning to the sacred land. The 10th prince could only helplessly say, "Since you're not going back, we'll wait for you in the sacred land. Yi Fei, be careful. The heavenly Een cult has suffered too much this time. I'm afraid that if the heavenly Een cult master finds out, he might personally take action." Shifeng said worriedly. "It's good if he dares to come." Yi Fei sneered, not caring at all. Before the demon emperor left, he had given him a life-saving mark. In fact, Yi Fei couldn't wait for the heavenly Een cult master to come quickly. At that time, he would release the demon emperor and see if the heavenly Een cult master would be scared witless. 10th Prince, Shifeng, I'm leaving. See you at Sword Peak in half a year. Yi Fei waved at the two of them and planned to leave by boat. All right, we'll wait for you at Sword Peak in half a year. The 10th Prince and Shifeng nodded vigorously. Seeing Yi Fei's current strength, they were looking forward to the battle between Yi Fei and Nan Ruofeng in half a year. Yi Fei, wait, where are you going? I'll go with you. Shangluo walked towards Yi Fei in a flirtatious manner. When she passed by the 10th prince and Shifeng, she deliberately stretched her body in a very seductive manner. She charmed the 10th prince and Shifeng so much that their eyeballs almost popped out. The surrounding young geniuses all looked at Yi Fei with hostility. What ability did this kid have to be able to travel with Luo Xianzi? Even the 10th prince and Shifeng looked at Yi Fei with resentment and envy. Yi Fei felt very depressed. This Shangluo's personality was really vile. Yi Fei could ignore her playing around with the other young geniuses. But seeing that the 10th prince and Shifeng were clearly falling for her, Yi Fei couldn't ignore it. Little girl, stand to the side and cool off. Also, don't play around with people in the future. Yi Fei couldn't bear to see these young geniuses of the Northern Territory being played around by a little girl. He didn't want to have a piece of sticky candy following him around when he was out adventuring. Chapter 397. Complete Void Step. Shangluo didn't expect Yi Fei to be so daring as to attack her. Before she could react, the illusion on her body had already been destroyed by Yi Fei's slap. Without the support of the illusion, Shangluo had no choice but to turn back into a little girl from a beautiful young lady. Soon after, her clothes loosened. 2 lumps of cotton fell out from her clothes. The heavens could testify that Yi Fei attacked Shangluo because he didn't want the young talents of the northern domain to be fooled by a little girl. If news of this spread to the central continent, it would greatly damage the reputation of the northern domain. Thus, Yi Fei only planned to break Shangluo's illusion and wake the young talents of the northern domain up. Who would have thought that his slap would cause Shangluo to reveal her true form and even cause the cotton to fall out? The young talents on the island were all dumbfounded. Countless people watched in astonishment as the fairy-like Luo Xianzi, whom they yearned for day and night, suddenly turned from a beautiful young lady into a delicate little girl. Crack! The 10th prince and Shifeng could clearly hear their hearts shattering. After all this time, Luo Xianzi was actually a 12 or 13-year-old little girl. They had all been deceived. Shangluo was also completely stunned. Yi Fei breaking her illusion was already enough to infuriate the first Mississippi. In the end, Yi Fei was actually shameless enough to knock away the cotton she had stuffed into her clothes. Unbearable! Shangluo's childlike screams resounded throughout the entire island. Yi Fei, you bastard! Scum! Scum of scum! If you have the guts, stop right there. I will fight you for 30,000 rounds. The people of the Shang clan were indeed crazy. When she saw Yi Fei escaping by boat, Shangluo was so furious that she wanted to jump into the sea. Even if she had to swim over, she still wanted to slash at Yi Fei a few times. The experts from the Merchant Alliance broke out in a cold sweat as they watched. That was the sea of constellations they were talking about. Even a single strand of hair would immediately sink to the bottom if it fell in, let alone a living person like Shangluo. Young miss, we can't. We have the warship and third master. Why don't we contact third master right now and chase after this brat and kill him? The experts of the Merchant Union tried their best to persuade Shangluo. They almost knelt down before Shangluo. Only then did Shangluo calm down. However, she still looked like she was gnashing her teeth and said, "Humph, you can run away, but the temple can't. If you don't let me follow you, I will go to Taishan City and wait for you." Immediately, Shangluo turned around and left with the masters of the Merchant Alliance, intending to return to Taishan City and continue to wait. She didn't forget that the matter of the face-retaining pill didn't need to be rushed, but in order to cure the third master of Shangluo's insanity, Shanghai had to be 120% careful. "Young miss, if we leave, what will happen to third master?" The masters of the Merchant Alliance followed behind Shangluo and were a little confused. "Humph, third uncle won't be too far away from me. If I leave, third uncle will immediately catch up with me," Shangluo said very confidently. She also glanced at the one-eyed old man who was passing by with a strange look in her eyes. She felt that there was something strange about this old man, as if he had just taken a peek at her. When he heard Xianglua say that third master of Xiang would soon catch up with them, the strange aura that the one-eyed old man had given Xianglua quickly disappeared. Then, the one-eyed old man became like the other warriors, so Xianglua couldn't see anything unusual. She just watched Yi Fei sail out to sea. The old man's cloudy eyes couldn't help but flash with a fierce light. That little girl is protected by the crazy third master of Shang family, so it's not easy for me to make a move. However, this Yi Fei actually didn't leave with the martial emperor martial spirit. This is my chance. Inside the one-eyed old man's body, the blood-robed martial king let out a cold roar. Even though his strength had greatly decreased, the blood-robed martial king still didn't put a junior like Yi Fei in his eyes. He didn't make a move on the island because he was afraid of attracting that crazy third master of Shang. Now that he saw Yi Fei sailing out to sea alone, the blood-robed martial king felt that his chance to take revenge had finally arrived. He controlled the one-eyed old man to walk to the shore of nowhere. Bang! A bloody hole suddenly exploded in the one-eyed old man's body. Following that, a human face, but his entire body seemed to be condensed from blood. It flew out of the bloody hole and instantly turned into a blood-red snake with a human face. At the same time, it sucked the old man's blood dry. Plop! This blood snake had already rushed into the constellation sea. Strangely, it didn't sink to the bottom, as if it was born to survive in this kind of environment. It quickly swam in the sea. One step in the void, 10,000 laws are immortal. One thought in the void, laws follow your heart. After quickly escaping from the island, Yi Fei tidied up the space bags of the Golden Bone Emissary and the dozen or so successor disciples of the Heavenly Yin cult. He didn't find anything noteworthy. He simply took out the void steps that he had obtained from Xianglua and carefully studied it. Then, Yi Fei discovered that the Shang clan's great void technique was really mysterious. It might even be on a higher level than the Demon Emperor's Demon Emperor scripture. Unfortunately, what Yi Fei had obtained was not the complete Great Void technique. It was only an extension of the void technique, the void step. Even so, in order to comprehend this footwork, Yi Fei felt that with his aptitude, it would take him a month to completely grasp this footwork. However, when he thought about how he had obtained many heaven-grade jade blood pills from the Heavenly Yin sect after killing the Golden Bone Emissary, he knew that these heaven-grade 1 pills were no longer of much use to him, who was a martial saint. Thus, he decided not to waste a single pill. Therefore, he didn't waste any of them. Yi Fei quickly came up with an idea. He might as well use these pills to increase his comprehension through the Undying Sword Soul. When the Undying Sword Soul absorbed the jade blood pills, Yi Fei could clearly feel that the Undying Sword Soul was emitting an unpalatable emotion. After waiting for a while, the Undying Sword Soul barely squeezed out a trace of black energy. It was like smoke coming out of the Undying Sword Soul. Yi Fei felt his balls ache. He understood that if he wanted to increase his comprehension in the future, pills below grade 3 heaven grade would be useless. Fortunately, the disciples of the Heavenly Yin cult didn't have much on them. They still had a lot of jade blood pills. The total amount of black energy converted from the jade blood pills was barely enough to satisfy Yi Fei's need. Relying on this energy, Yi Fei quickly felt that his comprehension of the void steps was constantly increasing. Time passed day by day, and the level of the void steps was also rapidly increasing. Beginner, small success, large success, perfection. Boom. Finally, after spending 3 days, Yi Fei had completely grasped the void steps to the perfection stage. His ability to escape had greatly increased. Whoosh. At this time, the bottom of Yi Fei's boat also stirred up a small wave. A strange red snake with a human face snickered as it slithered to the bottom of Yi Fei's boat. Without saying a word, It opened its poisonous fangs and gnawed at the bottom of the starwood boat. The blood-robed Martial King's abacus was also very loud. This was the sea of constellations where birds and beasts were extinct. If a hair fell, it would sink to the bottom. Chapter 398. Damn it! Hee hee! As if thinking of the joy of possessing Yi Fei's body, the blood-robed Martial King laughed sinisterly as he gnawed on the starwood. Then, he continued to gnaw crazily. The bottom of the starwood ship quickly began to thin, and the speed of the voyage began to be affected. Under the impact of the seawater, parts of the bottom of the ship began to thin rapidly, which made the blood-robed Martial King even more confident in his plan. In the past, the Blood Demon sect had offended powerful martial artists in the Sea of Constellations. Some of them could not even defeat the blood-robed Martial King, but no matter how strong the opponent was, as long as they were in the Sea of Constellations, the blood-robed Martial King had a way to kill them. In the past 3 years, the blood-robed Martial King had continuously used this shameless method of destroying the bottom of the ship, killing 3 10th-level Martial King experts in a row. Then, he devoured their blood essence and broke through to the 10th-level Martial King. Thinking that he would be able to see Yi Fei's expression of despair soon, the blood-robed Martial King gnawed on the starwood and wished he could let out a cheer of victory. Ha ha ha, Yi Fei, so what if your talent is strong? So what if you have the remnant spirit of a martial emperor as your master? When we reach the Sea of Constellations, see how I will plot against you. Bang bang bang! The blood-robed Martial King gnawed happily, his heart incomparably carefree. Yi Fei sat cross-legged at the bow of the ship, still studying the mysteries of the void steps. He also had an incomparably dirty idea in his heart. Should he meet Shanglu one day and obtain the complete Great Void technique from this little girl? One had to know that in the Sky Martial Continent, it had been a full 1,000 years since a new martial emperor was born. The current strongest was a martial saint. If Yi Fei could obtain the Devil Emperor's scripture and the Great Void technique, these 2 cultivation techniques that surpassed the saint level, and cultivate them together, his chances of breaking through to the martial emperor realm in the future would definitely increase greatly. His heart was in turmoil. Suddenly, Yi Fei felt that something was wrong with the situation around him. Why was the speed of the ship slowing down? He tried to channel more true essence into the array that controlled the ship's navigation. This time, the speed of the ship increased. Strangely, the hull of the ship felt a faint bumpy feeling, and it also started to become heavier. The ship has become so heavy. We can't be so unlucky, right? Could it be that the ship was attacked by sea beasts and the water got into the hull? Yi Fei was speechless. This was a great taboo on the sea, especially on the Constellation Sea. Once the ship started to leak, and there were no other ships nearby to rescue it, even a 10th-layer Martial King realm expert would drown if he fell into the water. Yi Fei looked at the sea in the distance. In the vast sea, other than the scattered starlight, there was no sign of human habitation. Yi Fei was very depressed. He knew that it was impossible to call for help now. If it were any other warrior, they would have been scared out of their wits. Yi Fei still had a relaxed expression. After all, he had the ancient beast seal. Even if he fell into the water, he did not have to worry about the possibility of drowning. However, the sea beasts on the ship were really cunning. Of all things, they just had to destroy his ship. Yi Fei's eyes could not help but reveal a hint of anger. He released his mind, and the ancient beast seal had already covered Yi Fei's legs with mysterious divine dragon scales. It was different from ordinary divine dragon scales. On the scales on Yi Fei's legs, there was a very mysterious pattern. It was also these patterns that allowed Yi Fei to avoid water, and also allowed Yi Fei's feet to seem as if he was wearing a pair of exquisite dragon armor battle boots. It looked noble and mysterious. Yi Fei saw that the scales on his legs had changed again. Immediately, a strange expression appeared on his face. "What the hell is my beast seal?" Why do I feel like I've become a monster? Without any time to think, the star wood at the bottom of the ship had been completely gnawed through by the blood-robed Martial King. The surging seawater rushed up. In the blood-robed Martial King's mind, in the face of such a situation of certain death, even if a junior like Yi Fei didn't pee his pants on the spot, he would still be terrified and panicked. When Yi Fei was at his most desperate, the blood-robed Martial King would appear and humiliate Yi Fei to death. However, at this moment, Yi Fei's expression was unexpectedly calm. Since he did not shout in fear, nor did he panic for help, seeing that the ship was destroyed, he understood that the sea beasts were hidden at the bottom of the ship. Yi Fei angrily punched out on the spot. The 60% slaughter fist intent and the perfect Saint demonic kill smashed the ship into smithereens. Rumble! A huge waterfall appeared on the surface of the sea. The blood-robed Martial King was caught off guard and his body took Yi Fei's punch head-on. He was smashed into the sky along with the seawater, revealing his true appearance. Human face and snake body, what the hell is this? It's so long that I want to vomit. Yi Fei looked at the strange, sticky thing that exploded out and almost vomited. The blood-robed Martial King was so angry that he really vomited. How could he have thought that Yi Fei actually had the same ability as him to ignore the restrictions of the Sea of Constellations and walk in the water? Yi Fei's punch had caused the blood-robed Martial King's injuries to worsen on the spot. Blood mixed with his internal organs spewed out. Following that, the blood-robed Martial King was so angry that his heart attacked. Yi Fei, you really do have a big secret on you. You can actually walk in the Sea of Constellations. What exactly are you? The blood-robed Martial King looked at the scales on Yi Fei's legs and no longer dared to treat Yi Fei as an ordinary person. He asked as if he was facing a great enemy. Yi Fei saw the monster's appearance clearly and was also very shocked. You are the blood-robed Martial King. You actually didn't die and even dared to assassinate me. Haha, a junior like you can be considered to have some talent. It's a pity that you shouldn't have offended my blood demon sect. I'll give you a chance. Quickly kneel down and give me all the Martial King's opportunities you obtained. I might even leave you with an intact corpse. Seeing that his identity had been exposed, the blood-robed Martial King finally transformed back into his human form. His upper body was intact while his lower body was dripping with blood. His intestines and internal organs were dragged along, causing Yi Fei to feel extremely disgusted. It's already rotten to this extent. Fine, I'll be a good person to the end and send you to hell. Understanding that the blood-robed Martial King was here to kill him, Yi Fei was not afraid. He even strode towards the blood-robed Martial King. Junior, you're courting death. Do you think? The blood-robed Martial King was furious. Even though he was severely injured, he was still at the 5th level of the Martial King realm. Yi Fei, a junior at the 10th level Martial Saint realm, dared to take the initiative to attack him. Immediately, the blood-robed Martial King planned to use the cruelest methods to torture Yi Fei to death. Think my ass. Without waiting for the blood-robed Martial King to speak, Yi Fei interrupted him with a loud roar. At the same time, the Phoenix blood sword instantly shot out. The light of the sacred artifact caused the surrounding seawater to surge up to 1,000 meters high. No, that's a sacred artifact. Spare me. Seeing Yi Fei take out a true sacred artifact without saying a word, the blood-robed Martial King was so scared that his gallbladder was about to burst. He was incomparably regretful. How could he be so obsessed with provoking Yi Fei? Boom. Chapter 399. Beast King City. The blood-robed Martial King's body exploded. Strangely, there was no sign of a spatial bag. Yi Fei's expression turned ugly as he cursed. This bullshit blood demon sect protector. To think that you're a 10th level Martial King expert. You don't even have a spatial bag on you. What a typical pauper. The pitiful blood-robed martial king was an expert of his generation. He had been instantly killed by a junior with a sacred artifact. He had already died with grievance. In the end, he was even scolded by Yi Fei. As Yi Fei put away the sacred artifact, the surrounding seawater slowly calmed down. Suddenly, Yi Fei noticed that the blood-robed martial king's broken corpse had not sunk to the bottom of the sea. Instead, his corpse emitted a dense blood-red light. Another blood bodhi grew from his corpse. Another blood bodhi? Yi Fei was very shocked. After the demon emperor's explanation, he already knew that the blood bodhi was not a treasure of the sky martial continent. Instead, it belonged to the blood world's Azura race. It was faintly related to Buddhism. It was already very rare for the blood demon sect to be able to obtain one. Now, this blood demon sect protector's body was hiding another one. As for why the blood bodhi began to take root when the blood demon sect protector died, this was the growth characteristic of the blood bodhi. It had to constantly absorb blood chi and resentment in order to mature. Therefore, when the blood demon sect protector died, he felt the blood chi. Without any suppression, the blood bodhi would immediately take root in his flesh and blood and begin to grow. It could be considered a backlash to the carrier. However, a backlash is a backlash. Although the blood bodhi is evil, once it matures, its value is also very great. This is a good thing that can raise one's dantian to the heaven level. If I ripen another one, even if I can't break through to the second grade of the heaven level, it will definitely be useful when I break through to the martial king realm in the future. Understanding the benefits of the blood bodhi, Yi Fei did not stand on ceremony. He immediately walked over and uprooted the blood bodhi. Then, he turned and quickly left. On the surface of the sea, Yi Fei's figure appeared once again. Coincidentally, this scene was seen by the old man's family who had just returned from their trip. This time, the arrogance on their faces was no longer present. All of them had smiles on their faces and looked amiable. Coincidentally, they also saw the terrifying scene of Yi Fei stirring up 1,000 meters of seawater to kill the enemy. These few grandsons were almost scared out of their wit. Needless to say, this person who could run on the surface of the sea and stir up trouble was probably a living martial sage senior. Grandpa is right. There's always someone better than you. We were too arrogant in the past. When we go back, we must turn over a new leaf. These bastards hurriedly knelt down and kowtowed in the direction Yi Fei had left. It was as if they were worshipping the martial sage. They became even more determined to be kind to others and not cause trouble. They really did what they said. When they returned to their hometown, they changed their bad habits. Every day they would help old grannies cross the road. When they saw beggars, they would immediately lend a helping hand and ask about their well-being. A few years later, they actually became famous for being kind people within a 10,000 li radius. There was an endless stream of heroes who went to befriend them. Yi Fei had no idea that his actions as a fake martial sage had unintentionally changed the lives of a few people. Meanwhile, in the small world where the Heavenly Een cult's headquarters was located, a real martial sage had already come out of seclusion. This person was none other than the cult master of the Heavenly Een cult, Nangong Shun. Ha ha ha, after 200 years of hard work, I've finally taken the first step into the martial sage realm. Nangong Shun was in a very good mood. After coming out of the dark underground palace and seeing the familiar sky and scenery, he was in a very good mood. The white bone messengers, golden bone messengers, core disciples, and even a dozen martial king venerables who had already gathered outside the underground palace after hearing the news all knelt down to welcome Nangong Shun. Congratulations, Cult Master. You've achieved the 12th layer martial sacred realm. This is a sign that our Heavenly Een cult is going to prosper. Brother, congratulations. The Empress Dowager, Nangong Ing, wore an unpleasant expression. Initially, if she had obtained the Phoenix Blood Sword, she would definitely be able to achieve the 12th layer martial sacred realm faster than Nangong Shun. However, due to her son and grandson's deception, she had already lost the chance. It was said that even the Phoenix Blood Sword had ended up in Yi Fei's hands. The Empress Dowager wore an unpleasant expression after seeing Nangong Shun's breakthrough. "Humph, you know that I'm your brother. You claim to be unparalleled in terms of strategy, but you were set up by your son and grandson, and even lost the Phoenix Blood Sword. Nangong Ing, how should you be punished?" Nangong Shun glanced at his sister with a hint of anger. "If it weren't for your mistake, my most talented son would have been killed by an ant. Brother, it's just a Nangong Long. His death is nothing to be regretted. Zhao Yu, who I brought back, will definitely be more precious than 10, no, 100 Nangong Longs. Don't forget, half of her blood is from our Nangong clan too." The Empress Dowager did not back down. Although she had been set up by her son and grandson, it was not like she had not gained anything. At least, she had brought Zhao Yu back to the Heavenly Yin cult. Hearing Zhao Yu's words, Nangong Shun's expression softened. He asked coldly, "How is Zhao Yu now? Can you guarantee that she'll wholeheartedly serve our Heavenly Yin cult and our Nangong clan?" "Of course I can guarantee it. Haven't you seen what I can do?" the Empress Dowager said confidently. After thinking for a while, she added, "I'm planning to teach Zhao Yu our Nangong clan's strongest technique, the Yin-Yang Treasure Mirror. I hope Cult Master will allow it." "What? The Yin-Yang Treasure Mirror? That's a half-step martial emperor technique. Even I can't cultivate it. Are you sure Zhao Yu can cultivate it?" Nangong Shun was shocked. The Empress Dowager rolled her eyes at him and said impolitely, "Do you think Zhao Yu is a piece of trash like you and me? I brought her back at all costs. Do you think I was fooling around? Really? Ha ha ha, then my Heavenly Yin cult will be blessed with double happiness this time." Hearing that Zhao Yu could cultivate that technique, Nangong Shun was overjoyed. He was laughing even more happily than when he had reached the 12th level of the Martial Saint realm. Of course, the Empress Dowager knew what Nangong Shun was thinking. Although she felt that it was too cruel to her granddaughter, when she thought of the great benefits it would bring to her and the Nangong family, the Empress Dowager steeled her heart and stepped aside without saying anything. Today was undoubtedly a joyous day for the Heavenly Yin cult. Not only did the cult master come out of seclusion and officially reach the first level of the 12th level of the Martial Saint realm, he was now known as Wu Jun. Even the new saintess had cultivated half of the martial emperor technique. The entire Heavenly Yin cult rejoiced. While the Heavenly Yin sect was celebrating and cheering wildly, Yi Fei used the Great Void Steps over and over again to hurry on his way. A month later, Yi Fei finally arrived at the Beast King City, the place he had been waiting for a long time. There was only one reason for him to come here. The Beast King City was Luo Shi's hometown. Previously at the Sword Peak, Yi Fei had heard that Luo Shi had left without saying goodbye and returned to the Luo clan. Chapter 400. History of the Luo family. When Yi Fei walked into Beast King City, his first impression was that there were a lot of vicious beasts here. Vicious beasts could be seen flying in the sky, running on the ground, and even in the water. Here, humans and vicious beasts had a very close relationship. Even many children in Beast King City would raise some docile vicious beasts as pet. Even more powerful vicious beasts, and even demonic beasts, would be captured by the warriors of Beast King City and sold to various places in exchange for cultivation resources. All the shops focused on purchasing materials, such as animal skins, animal fangs, animal bones, and other useful items from vicious beasts. Seeing this kind of city, Yi Fei felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. As the saying goes, those who rely on the mountain live off the mountain, and those who rely on the water live off the water. The Black Rock City that Yi Fei once lived in was basically similar to the Beast King City. They also made a living by hunting vicious beasts and planting spiritual herbs. However, the scale of Beast King City was dozens of times larger than Blackrock City. The warriors here were also very strong. Luo Shi had once chatted with Yi Fei and said that a martial king realm expert had once walked out of the Beast King City's City Lord's mansion, causing a great commotion. Other than the City Lord's office, which was the strongest, the 4 strongest families in Beast King City were the 4 great families, which were famous for their mastery of beast taming. Among them, the Luo family, which Luo Shi belonged to, was one of the strongest of the 4 great families. Therefore, it was very convenient for Yi Fei to inquire about the Luo family's location in the city. Very quickly, Yi Fei arrived at the entrance of the Luo family's residence. Strangely, as one of the strongest families in the Beast Monarch City, the entrance of the Luo family's residence was deserted. In broad daylight, the gate of the Luo family's residence was tightly shut. Yi Fei felt even more strange when he saw that she was acting like she was trying to keep strangers away from her. Yi Fei happened to see a servant of the Luo family walking out of the side door to buy groceries. He went up to him and asked, "Uncle, may I ask if this is the Luo family where Luo Shi lives?" "This is the Luo family's residence." "May I ask who young master is, and how you know our eldest young master?" The old man was very cautious as he looked at Yi Fei. Yi Fei rubbed his nose and could only reveal his identity. "This humble one is Yi Fei. I'm good friends with Luo Shi. Please wait a moment, I'll pass. I'll inform our young master immediately." The old man's vigilance disappeared and his attitude became respectful. However, his frown was still his frown. "Yi Fei's Luo. Did something happen in your residence?" Family S's families 9 family clans families. "Hey, I'm just a servant. I can't explain it clearly, and I don't dare to say it. Senior, since you're good friends with the eldest young master, I'm sure the family head will be willing to tell you." The old man didn't say anything else. He quickly returned to the side door and reported to the family head. Yi Fei could only stand there and wait. After a quarter of an hour, the Luo family's main door opened halfway. A rank 1 martial honorable realm middle-aged man came out with a few martial ancestor realm Luo family elders. He looked at Yi Fei and said, "You're Yi Fei, my son Luo Shi's good friend? Do you have proof?" The Luo family head was also cautious. Yi Fei was helpless. He thought for a while and said, "The spiritual eagle on Luo Shi's shoulder and his acquired beast body. Does that count as proof?" "Yes, of course." The Luo family head nodded. The acquired beast body was the Luo family's biggest secret. Even the other families in Beast King City did not know about it. Since Yi Fei knew about it, his relationship with Luo Shi was obvious. The Luo family head no longer had any doubt. He quickly invited Yi Fei into the Luo family and quickly closed the main door. This made Yi Fei even more confused. "Luo family head, where's Luo Shi? Why isn't he coming out?" "Sigh, it's a long story. Since you're my son's good friend, you don't have to call me family head. Just call me uncle," the Luo family head said. "Then if I may be so bold as to ask Father Luobo, did something happen to Luo Shi?" Seeing the Luo family head acting strangely, Yi Fei began to worry. "Nephew, you shouldn't have come." Sigh. The Luo family head sighed again. Yi Fei immediately knew that something must have happened to Luo Shi. Yi Fei stood up and said seriously, "Father Luobo, Luo Shi is my good friend. If he's in any trouble, I will definitely help him. Please tell me what happened to Luo Shi." "Well, since you've said so, I won't hide it from you. This matter has to start from the business of the Luo clan." The head of the Luo clan continued to sigh as he told Yi Fei the truth. Just as Yi Fei had guessed, most of the Luo family's income came from subduing the vicious beasts. This was considered one of the pillars of Beast King City's industry. Every year, the Luo family only had to pay 30% of the taxes to the City Lord Mansion. The remaining 70% was enough for the Luo family to live comfortably. Unfortunately, after a martial king appeared in the city lord mansion, the Luo family and the other families in the city began to suffer. As soon as the martial king appeared, he immediately issued a new decree. He required the 4 families in the city to pay 50% of the taxes every month instead of 30%. After being rejected by the major clans, the martial king decided to raise the tax to 70%. 70% of the taxes, how heavy of a burden was that? In an instant, the 4 prosperous families in the city fell to the bottom of the valley. This was also the reason why Yi Fei had come to see the Luo family head was deserted. Of course, 70% of the taxes isn't a big deal. At worst, we can just leave Beast King City and start over. However, the city lord didn't even give us the chance to leave. When he found out that we had the intention to leave, the city lord quickly dispatched a large number of experts to capture the younger generation of our families and bring them to the depths of the mountains to fight with the vicious beasts. The Luo family head's face was full of anger as he said this. It's called fighting, but it's actually killing. In the past 3 years, more than 30 outstanding disciples of the Luo family have died at Longevity Mountain. My son Luo, she also couldn't stand the city lord mansion bullying us, so he traveled thousands of miles to the Taishan Holy Land to learn martial arts. Unfortunately? What? Could it be that Luo Shi? Yi Fei suddenly had a bad premonition. Only now did he know that Luo Shi had joined the Taishan Holy Land to change the fate of his family. Knowing that Yi Fei had misunderstood, the Luo family head hurriedly shook his head. Nephew, don't worry. Luo Shi is fine for the time being. After he returned, he and the other disciples of the Luo family were all captured and brought to Longevity Mountain to hunt the demonic beasts. The city lord promised us that as long as we could kill 100,000 martial grandmaster realm demonic beasts, he would let us go. But I'm still worried that the city lord has other motive. I'm even more worried that once we kill 100,000 demonic beasts, the city lord will kill us to keep the secret. Nephew, now you know the difficulties of the Luo family. If you don't want to be implicated, you should leave before the city lord mansion discovers you. After the Luo family had finished speaking, he stood up and wanted to urge Yi Fei to leave quickly. Yi Fei smiled bitterly. He could see that the owner of this house was a good person. However, Luo Shi was his brother. Now that his brother's family was in trouble, Yi Fei couldn't ignore it. Thus, he stood up and said, Father Luofeng, Luo Shi is locked up there. I'll go and rescue him. Boom. Chapter 401. Catching Strong Men to Work, Rank 10 Martial Honorable. Seeing Yi Fei's exposed strength, the Luo family's patriarch was shocked, and the elders of the Luo family almost fell down. They were all shocked. After the Luo family head recovered from his shock, he was ecstatic. He had thought that Yi Fei was just like Luo Shi, a good friend he had made at the Taishan sacred ground. Even though Luo Shi had praised Yi Fei profusely when he had returned, the Luo family head had not taken it seriously. After all, Yi Fei was a rank 1 martial honorable. In the Luo family head's opinion, if he did not become a martial honorable, Yi Fei's talent would be useless. When Yi Fei saw that Yi Fei was not a junior, but a rank 10 martial honorable that even he, the Luo family head, had to look up to, the Luo family head was so excited that he danced like a child. That's great, that's great. I never thought that my son would make friends with a rank 10 martial honorable. Senior, please forgive us for our previous offense. The elders of the Luo family hurried over to apologize. A rank 10 martial honorable was not someone the small Luo family could afford to offend. Yi Fei smiled and withdrew his rank 10 martial honorable aura. He shook his head and said, You don't have to do this. Luo Shi is my good friend. I can't afford to be called senior. You can just call me Yi Fei. Father Luo, do you think that I can help you now? Of course, why not? Even if a rank 10 marshal honorable can't defeat the Marshal King city governor, the city governor will be wary of you, the Luo family head said happily. Before he could discuss the rescue plan with Yi Fei, the Luo family head rushed over. Reporting, family head, something bad has happened. The city governor's mansion has come to capture people again. The elder who had reported earlier rushed in and reported. Capture people? Who are they capturing? In the past few years, our Luo family's direct and branch family members, regardless of gender, have all been captured and sent to the Longevity Mountain to work as coolies. How can there be any young disciples left in the family for them to capture? Patriarch Luo and the other elders were furious. A family didn't just need a powerhouse to hold the fort. It also needed a continuous stream of outstanding juniors. The way the City Lord Manor had taken away all the juniors of the Luo family was basically no different from destroying the Luo family. Patriarch, it must be someone from the City Lord's mansion. They must have discovered that Yi Fei had come to the Luo family and misunderstood that Yi Fei was also a disciple of our Luo family who had come here to train. An elder had more or less guessed the City Lord's mansion's intentions. Preposterous. This old man will go and explain things to them. Family head Luo was afraid that Yi Fei would be displeased, so he wanted to go out and explain things. Hearing that the City Lord's mansion's people had come to capture him, Yi Fei suddenly had a good idea. Uncle Luo, there's no need to explain. Didn't the City Lord's mansion treat me as a member of the Luo family? Then I'll disguise myself as a junior of the Luo family and sneak into Longevity Mountain to check on Luo Shi's situation. Then I'll decide how to save him. It was understandable that the Beast King City's city lord wanted to suppress the families in the city, but it was strange that he wanted to kill 100,000 martial ancestor realm demonic beasts. Yi Fei wanted to go to Longevity Mountain to see what the Martial King City's city lord was planning. Was he planning to use this opportunity to exhaust the power of the various families in Beast King City, or was he planning something else? Yi Fei, since you've decided to do this, I won't stop you. However, I hope that you'll do your best. Don't force yourself. Seeing that Yi Fei had already made his decision, the Luo family head couldn't stop him. After all, he was also worried about Luo Shi's safety in Longevity Mountain. Of course, the Luo family head didn't want Yi Fei to be too reckless. Even if Yi Fei was a 10th level martial saint, compared to a martial king, the difference was like heaven and earth. In the Tianwu continent there was a saying, if you don't become a martial king, you'll be an ant. This saying described the power of a martial king. Yi Fei also knew that the Luo family head was worried that he wouldn't be a match for the Martial King City's city lord. Yi Fei secretly found it funny. With a sacred weapon in hand, even a 10th level Martial King Blood Demon Sect protector could be killed in one strike. How could he be afraid of a mere Martial King City's city lord? Immediately, Yi Fei asked the people of the Luo family to help him change into the Luo family's disciples' uniform. Just as he finished changing, 2 first-level martial saints from the city lord's mansion barged in with arrogant looks on their faces. When they saw the Luo family head, they didn't bow. Instead, they stared at Yi Fei and asked, "Brat, you're also a disciple of the Luo family, right? Where did you come from? Come with us. Who are you? Why have you barged into my Luo family? Family head, what are they trying to do?" Yi Fei's face was filled with anger. He didn't hide his first-level martial ancestor realm cultivation. The 2 first-level martial revered generals laughed so hard that they almost choked. Haha, I thought that the Luo family had some big shot back. After all this time, you're even worse than that Luo Shi. Family head Luo, you know what to do, right? The 2 generals glanced at Yi Fei with disdain, then glanced at the Luo family head. The Luo family head's expression was ugly. He showed hesitation, struggle, helplessness, and finally, he was forced to compromise. He looked at Yi Fei and said, "Luo Fei, come with the 2 generals." Remember, when you reach Longevity Mountain, you have to work hard to hunt down the vicious beast. You can't bring shame to our Luo family's name. Alright, since it's the family head's order, Luo Fei doesn't dare to disobey. Yi Fei put on an aggrieved expression. The two soldiers chained his neck and dragged him out. Before he left, Yi Fei even looked back with a reluctant expression. Seeing Yi Fei's acting skills, Patriarch Luo and the elders couldn't help but secretly give him a thumbs up. The two generals laughed loudly and glanced at the Luo family with disdain. They brought Yi Fei out of Beast King City and walked towards Longevity Mountain. "Generals, where are we going?" Yi Fei asked, even though he already knew the answer. "Cut the crap. If we tell you to go, then go. If you dare to slack off at Longevity Mountain, or if the demonic beasts cower in fear, we'll execute you according to military law." The first general scolded Yi Fei with a dark expression. The second general immediately put on a good face and comforted Yi Fei. "Kid, don't worry. The city lord said that as long as you disciples work hard to hunt down the vicious beasts and kill 100,000 of them, you can go home." At the mention of the word home, the two generals couldn't help but reveal a faint smile on their faces. However, an imperceptible chill flashed across their eyes. Faintly sensing the killing intent leaking from the two generals, Yi Fei's heart thumped. He understood that this trip to Longevity Mountain was not as simple as hunting down the vicious beast. Even if the Luo family and the other clans really did follow the agreement and killed 100,000 vicious beasts, what awaited them was definitely not going home, but a sudden attack. Luo Shi is really something. It's one thing for him to leave without saying goodbye, but he didn't even say anything when something like this happened to his family. "He really doesn't treat me as a brother," Yi Fei grumbled out of boredom. In truth, he also knew that Luo Shi only endured these difficulties and did not say anything because he treated him as a brother. Luo Shi did not want to implicate Yi Fei. How could Yi Fei just watch as Luo Shi fell into danger? Then, the two generals dragged the chained Yi Fei to Longevity Mountain. Although it was called a mountain, it was more like an open-air prison. There were fiendish soldiers of the city lord's mansion with unsheathed swords everywhere. From time to time, one could also see a half-naked prison guard brandishing a leather whip. Many disciples of the clans who had not reached the martial ancestor realm were forced to wear shackles and do all sorts of chores to clean up the corpses of the vicious beast. The disciples of the clans who were at the martial ancestor realm were brought to the entrance of Longevity Mountain. There were special barracks there, and those gathered there were all martial ancestor realm experts in charge of hunting down the vicious beasts. Chapter 402. Extremely vicious and wicked. The campsite was divided into two areas, the resting area and the injured area. Luo Shi was lying on a stretcher in the injured area. Two young girls from the Luo family were bandaging his wounds with tears in their eyes. It was just that Luo Yin's injuries were too severe. There was a large hole in his chest and blood flowed all over the ground. But ordinary bandages were unable to stop the bleeding. Luo Yin's face was now pale. Even if a martial artist's physique was strong, they wouldn't immediately kill Luo Yin. But if they didn't treat him quickly, there would be hidden injuries that would affect his future cultivation. However, the two girls who were bandaging Luo Shi's wounds used very simple things. They only used a piece of gauze for bandaging. When the wound split open, they only used simple animal bone needles and coarse wool thread to stitch it up stitch by stitch. Yi Fei frowned and asked the two generals beside him, "What is the meaning of this? Didn't you invite us to hunt vicious beasts? Aren't you going to give us any medicine for our injuries?" "Haha, we invited you here to hunt ferocious beasts. Kid, you've been training outside and your brain must be damaged. You're lucky that the city lord didn't kill you. How dare you complain?" The first general continued to put on a black face. The second general thought that Yi Fei might be able to get some benefits from his training outside. He immediately pointed to the white words on the blackboard and said, "Who said we don't have any healing medicine? Look carefully. This is the price of the fourth young master. If you want to heal your injuries, you can go and buy it." Yi Fei followed the direction and looked at the blackboard. He almost vomited blood. There were indeed healing elixirs on the board, but the lowest grade Earth Grade 1 healing elixir cost 10,000 spirit crystals each. 10,000 spirit crystals was enough to buy 100 elixirs outside. It was equivalent to one elixir being sold for 100 times the price. This could no longer be described as evil. It was so high that there was no bottom line. It was no wonder that many of the surrounding family disciples did not dare to use elixirs to heal their injuries. The price set by the City Lord Manor was basically robbing these family disciples of their wealth. If they bullied others, Yi Fei could ignore it. But if they bullied Luo Shi, Yi Fei would not allow it. He immediately tore off the chains on his body and strode towards Luo Shi. F***ck, this brat is actually a troublemaker. How dare you break free from the chains? The first general's face turned ugly. Forget it, the Luo family still has some power. It's not worthwhile for us to provoke them. It's better to let the fourth young master do it. I heard that the Luo family's women are very beautiful. If the fourth young master can get his hands on them, maybe we can also benefit from it. The second general didn't continue to play the good cop. Instead, a sinister smile appeared on his face. It was easy to provoke the king of hell, but difficult to deal with the little ghost. Yi Fei's careless actions had offended these two generals. They immediately thought of a way to take revenge on Yi Fei. As the two of them discussed, they walked towards the nearby City Lord Manor's barrack. "You're also a disciple of the Luo clan. Why haven't we seen you before?" The two girls from the Luo clan were puzzled when they saw Yi Fei being escorted in wearing the Luo clan's uniform. "Brother Fei, your brother Fei." The sickly Luo Shi was shocked when he saw Yi Fei. Then, he whispered anxiously, "Brother Fei, why are you here? F***ck, to think that you're still willing to call me Brother Fei. Why didn't you inform me that such a big thing happened at home? I think you don't treat me as a brother at all." Yi Fei looked at Luo Shi angrily. Luo Shi couldn't help but lower his head. The two of them were silent for a while. Then, Luo Shi said in shame, "Brother Fei, I didn't want to implicate you. You've seen my family situation, cough cough." As Luo Shi spoke, he started coughing violently. Yi Fei was angry, but when he saw how badly Luo Shi was injured, his anger dissipated. He quickly took out a heaven-grade healing pill and fed it to Luo Shi. Then, he channeled some quintessential yuan into Luo Shi. "Don't ask or say anything. Hurry up and treat your injuries. Then, I'll take you out of here." Yi Fei walked to the side and looked around. Luo Shi held the pill in his mouth as tears streamed down his face. However, he didn't say anything. He quickly sat down cross-legged and started to heal his injuries. "You guys too. If you don't want to die, then don't say anything. Hurry up and treat your injuries." Aside from Luo Shi, there were a few other family disciples who were lying on stretchers. Yi Fei frowned. He might as well save them all the way. He threw a few more pills at them. "Oh my God, it's a heaven-grade healing pill. With it, our injuries will quickly heal." "What, a heaven-grade healing pill? Bastard, I was wondering why the heaven-grade pills I bought recently were missing. It turns out that the Luo family stole them. Hurry up and kneel down and hand over all the treasures that you stole." Suddenly, a gloomy and cold voice interrupted the joy of these family disciples. A person quickly walked out from the military camp. The greasy-haired young master was already a level 3 martial honorable. The two generals who had escorted Yi Fei followed behind him. They looked at Yi Fei in shock. They had seen that this Luo family disciple had come to train and seemed to have some wealth. That was why they had immediately informed the fourth young master to come and plunder it. Who would have known that Yi Fei had so much wealth on him? They secretly regretted it. If they had known earlier, they would have killed Yi Fei on the way here and obtained Yi Fei's wealth. Fourth young Master Li walked over and unceremoniously kicked away a family disciple who had obtained a pill. He snatched the pill and discovered that it was indeed a heaven-grade healing pill. His eyes brightened. The two generals immediately understood the change in fourth young Master Li's expression. Without needing any instructions, they strode forward and pointed their fingers at Yi Fei's nose as they shouted, "Brat, how dare you steal fourth young Master Li's pills? What are you standing there for? Hurry up and kneel down and kowtow to fourth young Master Li." "I stole pills. If you want to steal my treasures, just say so. Why do you have to say so much nonsense? You're not happy even stealing my treasures. You're like a woman," Yi Fei coldly mocked. He did not care about the two generals and only stared at the young master behind them. "You're the one who said that I stole your medicinal pills. Do you have proof?" Yi Fei asked coldly. "This young master's words are the evidence. If you don't want your Luo family to be exterminated, hurry up and hand over all your heaven-grade pills. That's right, there are also these two young ladies. They look pretty good. Your Luo family must let them sleep with me for a night. Only then will I consider a new punishment for your Luo family," fourth young Master Li said arrogantly. When he saw that Yi Fei and the governor's palace were in conflict, Luo Shi, who was still cultivating, became very anxious. When he had left the sacred land, Yi Fei had only been a 10th-grade martial ancestor. Even after half a year, it would be pretty good if Yi Fei could break through to the 1st-grade martial honorable realm. In Luo Shi's opinion, how could Yi Fei be a match for fourth young Master Li? Thus, Luo Shi ignored his injuries and tried to stand up. "Brother Fei, don't worry about me. Hurry up and run. Sit down properly. I told you to focus on healing your injuries. Don't speak. Don't speak." Yi Fei's aura sank and his words carried a faint sense of authority that could not be resisted. Luo Shi felt that he could not speak or get up. Besides continuing to heal his injuries, he could not do anything else. "What is Brother Fei's current cultivation level?" Luo Shi was both shocked and excited. The governor's palace's order had been ignored by Yi Fei. The two generals and fourth young Master Li's expressions were extremely ugly. Fourth young Master Li coldly looked at the ground and spat out a mouthful of phlegm. "I've changed my mind. This time, not only do I want to play with the Luo family's women, I also want this kid to kneel on the ground and lick that mouthful of phlegm clean. Yes, fourth young Master Li, watch us. I guarantee that this kid will be obedient." "Kid, didn't you hear what fourth young Master Li said? Hurry up and kneel. Do you want me to do it myself? Pa." Chapter 403. Even more ferocious and evil, that's impossible. The governor's mansion's general was actually killed by a single slap from the Luo family? That's too terrifying. But it's good that he died. I killed him to my heart's content. The commotion had already alerted the disciples in the campsite, and they quickly gathered around. However, when they saw that Yi Fei had killed a general with a single slap, many of them heaved a sigh of relief. Their hearts were filled with incomparable astonishment. One must know that the general in front of them was a level 1 martial honorable. Yet, he had been killed by Yi Fei with a single slap. Just how strong was this youth in front of them? Not good. "This brat has actually killed our second brother. Someone, quickly come and protect the fourth young master." When the remaining general saw that his comrade had not even been able to withstand a single blow from Yi Fei, he quickly retreated in fear. However, this person was also cunning. He refused to admit that he was afraid of Yi Fei. Instead, he used the excuse of protecting Li Si as an excuse to hide behind Li Si, a level 3 martial honorable expert. "How dare you kill someone in front of this young master? This young master will kill you first, then destroy the Luo family." Li Si was indeed a debauchee, but his level 3 martial honorable realm was no joke. He quickly sent out an earth-shattering palm strike towards Yi Fei. The strong wind instantly shattered the entire campsite. Unable to withstand Li Si's palm technique, the disciples of the Luo family were blown all over the place. Many of them stared at Li Si in astonishment. They were extremely unwilling to admit that Li Si had the qualifications to be a debauchee. His martial realm was enough to suppress the entire younger generation of the Beast King city. A level 3 martial honorable that relied on pills. You dare to be impudent in front of me? Yi Fei sneered. He completely ignored Li Si's attack and continued to charge towards the general. Fourth young master, save me! The general screamed in terror. Although he was also a level 1 martial honorable, he did not have the slightest desire to fight Yi Fei. The scene of Yi Fei killing his comrade with a single slap was simply too frightening. You're courting death. Seeing that Yi Fei actually ignored his attacks, Li Si laughed sinisterly. Palm after palm struck forward like layers of waves. He wanted to see how many palm strikes Yi Fei could take under his attack. The result made Li Si despair. All of his attacks landed on Yi Fei's body. However, Yi Fei was not injured at all and only released the aura of a rank 10 martial honorable. Boom! All of Li Si's attacks vanished into thin air. A 3rd level martial honorable against a 10th level martial honorable, Li Si had not even touched the corner of Yi Fei's clothes and had already lost completely. 10th level martial honorable. The escaping general was so scared that his eyes almost popped out of their socket. The Luo family actually had such a frightening expert. How was this possible? What made the general even more speechless was that even though Yi Fei was so strong, he had still allowed the two of them to take him away. Pooh! In the end, the general could only watch as Yi Fei's palm struck his head. With endless regret and fear, the general was slapped into a meat patty by Yi Fei and fell to the ground. Li Si had been a thug his entire life, but he had never seen such a bloody scene, much less someone as ferocious as Yi Fei. If Li Si was said to be extremely vicious in Beast King City and angered the heavens and the people, then Yi Fei was even more vicious and evil. Before they even had a direct confrontation, the two martial honorable generals had already been slapped to death by Yi Fei like mosquitoes. Li Si's stomach started to cramp and he had the urge to turn around and run. However, he had nowhere to run. Yi Fei's level 10 martial honorable aura was still affecting him. Li Si could only muster up his courage and shout, You, don't come over. Do you know who my father is? My father is a level 1 martial king expert. If you dare to hurt me! Li Si suddenly screamed. Yi Fei picked up a sword from the ground and accidentally pierced a bloody hole in Li Si's body. Li Si used his true yuan to block, but he was unable to do so. The intense pain caused Li Si to curse. Damn, you dare to hurt me! You're dead. I'll go back and tell my father. My father will definitely teach you a lesson. Noisy! Pooh! Very carelessly Yi Fei stabbed again, piercing a bloody hole in the side of Li Si's heart. Yi Fei put his hand to his ear and asked politely, Fourth young master, right? What did you say just now? I didn't hear it. Please repeat it. Fuck. I don't care who you are. How dare you humiliate me like this? When my father arrives, I will definitely kill your entire family. Only then will I be able to vent my anger. Li Si roared crazily in his heart. He knew that he had kicked an iron plate this time. He could only admit defeat. He simply lay down on the ground and did not dare to resist. Brother, don't do anything. I was wrong. I can apologize to you. Apologize, right? Fine, then I'll have to trouble you to lick back the things you spat out on the ground. Otherwise, it will be an eyesore. Yi Fei used his sword to slap Li Si's face, forcing him to look at the thick phlegm on the ground. Li Si felt his stomach churning. He was so disgusted that he wanted to vomit on the spot. However, he was afraid that Yi Fei would force him to eat all the phlegm he spat out. That would be a fate worse than death. Don't kill me. I'll lick it. I'll lick it back. Facing the threat of death, Li Xiao forced himself to endure the humiliation and disgust. He unwillingly placed his face on the ground and stuck out his tongue. Bit by bit, he licked back the phlegm he spat out. In order to buy time for the experts in the military camp to save him, Li Si licked very carefully and slowly. It was really one bite at a time. Those who did not know would think that young Master Li was eating with relish. There were already many young girls who could not help but run to the side and vomit when they saw Li Si's actions. However, there were even more family disciples who could not help but applaud when they saw Li Si's actions. They had really been bullied too badly by the city lord's mansion and this young Master Li. However, no one dared to shout. Just as Yi Fei killed the first general, the military camp heard the commotion. Following that, the real expert in charge of guarding this place, a middle-aged steward of the 10th level martial honored realm, quickly rushed over. Fourth young master, you. When the middle-aged steward came over, he saw Li Si lying on the ground and eating phlegm. The steward was instantly dumbfounded. Li Si was so angry that smoke came out of his nostrils. He hurriedly got up from the ground and ran to the steward to vomit. Steward, you came at the right time. Kill him for me. Kill everyone here for me. Li Si was incomparably furious. He absolutely could not let the news of him being forced to eat phlegm spread. The only way was to kill everyone here. The middle-aged steward immediately used an incomparably dignified gaze to stare at Yi Fei and probed, 10th level martial honored realm? How could the Luo family have such an expert like you? Who exactly are you? Tell me your identity and I'll see if I can spare your life. Seeing that it was only a middle-aged steward who had come out and not the martial royal city lord, Yi Fei was slightly disappointed. However, he did not think too much about it. Seeing Luo Shi's situation, Yi Fei's anger had already been ignited. He pointed the sword in his hand at the middle-aged steward and said, "Who I am is not important. You only need to know that I'm the person who will kill you. Junior, you're courting death. Since you're unwilling to reveal your identity, this old man will capture you and interrogate you. As for the others, listen to fourth young master's orders and kill them without mercy." "Yes, sir." Rumble. Chapter 404. The Mayor's Anger. This is bad. It's fine if this person offends the mayor's mansion, but he's implicated us and we're going to be killed as well. Seeing the guards striding out, most of the family disciples turned pale with fright. A bunch of sheep. If it weren't for Brother Fei, we would have been killed by the vicious beasts sooner or later. The mayor's mansion would have found an excuse to kill us. Can't you show some backbone? Luo Shi cursed. With a whistle, a spiritual eagle emerged from his body. Luo Shi had been careful. Even when he had been captured, he had not revealed the secret of the spiritual eagle. Now that he had been forced to the brink of death, Luo Shi had revealed it as his final trump card. However, Luo Shi did not have the chance to use his trump card. Before the martial ancestor realm soldiers could reach him, Yi Fei had already taken the initiative to attack. What? The middle-aged manager's face was filled with shock. In his opinion, with him, a rank 10 martial honorable, holding back Yi Fei and the formation of a few hundred martial ancestor realm soldiers, it would be enough to suppress this brat. However, this brat in front of him had gut. He dared to take the initiative to attack in such a disadvantageous situation? After the middle-aged manager recovered from his shock, he was instantly enraged by Yi Fei's arrogant attitude. A long spear made from a top-grade profound weapon appeared in his hand. He waved the long spear and stabbed it forward, causing cracks to appear in the surrounding space. The manager's actions made Yi Fei suddenly remember that he still had 3 items on him that he had never used before. He might as well take them out and play with them now. Swoosh! Swoosh! Yi Fei rubbed his space ring and a silver moon-long spear appeared in his left hand. He clashed with the middle-aged manager's spear. At the same time, a golden war hammer appeared in Yi Fei's right hand. Yi Fei swung it and smashed it against the middle-aged manager's spear. Gotcha! In front of Yi Fei's golden war hammer, the spear shaft was like tofu dregs. It was smashed into smithereens. The middle-aged manager's eyes also changed from the initial complacency and anger to deep fear. Top-grade profound weapons, and two of them at that. Not good. Quickly kill him. Use the strongest military formation to kill him. Although he was shouting loudly, the 10th level Martial Honorable was scared out of his wits when he saw the two supreme-grade treasures. In his heart, he was cursing Li Si to his ancestors. This stupid silk pant. How was this kicking an iron plate? It was simply kicking a steel plate. The middle-aged manager used his strongest strength to send out a true essence storm. Then, he turned around and prepared to return to the army formation. He planned to use his advantage in numbers to delay Yi Fei. Great void steps. A cold smile flashed across Yi Fei's face when he saw the martial ancestor realm soldiers rushing over. His figure suddenly disappeared and tore the space apart, appearing in front of the middle-aged manager in an instant. Die! Rumble! The silver moon spear and the golden warhammer were smashed away by Yi Fei's brute force at the same time. Then, under the middle-aged manager's horrified gaze, his body was smashed into pieces. Yi Fei lifted a blood-stained spatial bag with the tip of his spear. The army formation that was still slowly advancing immediately stopped moving and then became chaotic. Heavens, Manager Li was killed so quickly. What should we do? The two generals and Manager Li have all died in battle. There is no way to fight this battle. Quickly, run. The middle-aged manager was the strongest person in this army. When he saw that even the strongest expert had been smashed to death by Yi Fei, the morale of the army fell to the lowest point before the battle even started. Before Yi Fei could kill his way over, the martial ancestor realm soldiers had already screamed and fled as fast as they could. Yi Fei felt depressed when he saw this. Am I that scary? Wait for me, you bunch of dog slaves. Quickly come over and protect me. Li Si had personally seen the strongest manager of the City Lord's manor get smashed to death by Yi Fei in a few moves. Li Si was terrified. He cried and shouted, wanting to escape with the soldiers. Where do you think you are going? Yi Fei stood where he was. As he put away the silver moon spear and the golden warhammer, a white bone divine bow appeared in his hand. Although Yi Fei did not know archery, his rank 10 martial honorable realm true essence turned into a terrifying true essence arrow. It flew over 1,000 meters and instantly pierced through Li Si's body. Bang! In the end, the fourth young master of the City Lord's manor, a rank 3 martial honorable, could not escape the fate of destruction. His broken body fell from the sky and Yi Fei took away his spatial bag. Heavens! One man had defeated an entire army. Who is he? Is he a pro-disciple of the Tai Xian sacred ground? This is bad. Li Si is dead. The City Lord must be furious. That is the fury of a martial king. Our clans are going to be annihilated. What are you afraid of? If we are destroyed, so be it. Even if Brother Fei did not kill Li Si, the City Lord would not let us go. Luo Shi looked at these timid guys with disdain. He did not want to be with them. Instead, he flew to Yi Fei's side and said happily, Tisk Tsk, Brother Fei, you are awesome. You defeated the City Lord's manor's army alone and even killed the two bastards, Manager Li and Li Si. If you want, you can do it too. By the way, this thing is useless to me. I'll give it to you for self-defense. Yi Fei remembered that Luo Shi had not found a suitable weapon, so he simply gave the golden warhammer to Luo Shi. It was impossible to say how many disciples of the various clans looked on with eyes as red as rabbit. That was a supreme-grade treasure item. Any clan that obtained it would become a signature treasure of their clan. And yet, Yi Fei had given it to Luo Shi without batting an eye. Damn it, why can't we make friends with such good brothers? TSK, this kid Luo, she can actually become brothers with such a terrifying powerhouse. As long as the Luo family is not destroyed this time, it will very likely dominate Beast King City in the future. Apart from feeling envious, some of the more discerning disciples had already made up their minds to interact more with the Luo family in the future. The prerequisite was that the Luo family could withstand the wrath of the city lord's manner. Yi Fei did not give Luo Shi much time to think. When he saw that the matter had been resolved, he called out to Luo Shi, "Luo Shi, take your Luo family members and follow me back to the Luo family." At the same time, Yi Fei did not forget to use the blood bodhi to absorb the blood qi of the dead middle-aged manager and the two generals. After all, the blood bodhi needed to be constantly fed with blood qi. If it lacked blood qi, it would immediately suffer a backlash. Now that Yi Fei had let the blood bodhi absorb the blood qi of 4 martial honorables, the blood bodhi should not lack blood qi for a long time. While Yi Fei was using the blood bodhi to absorb the blood qi, in a quiet room in the city lord's manor, a red-haired old man who was cultivating suddenly opened his eyes and roared at the sky with a sorrowful expression. "Roar! Who dares to kill my son? I don't care who you are, I will not let you off." Boom! Chapter 405. Facing the Martial King. Father, I'm finally back. Mother, I thought I would never see you again in this lifetime. Patriarch, Luo Ning died in battle, Luo Tian died in battle, Luo Ding was beaten to death by those bastards from the city lord's mansion, 7th cousin and 8th cousin. It hurts so much, my arm was almost bitten off by those vicious beasts. Our Luo family is a beast-tamer family. When have we ever done something as evil as killing innocent vicious beasts? Once they returned to the Luo family, the Luo family disciples who were saved by Yi Fei started to cry and curse. They were sad about their family members' deaths and hated the city lord's mansion for causing all this. There were several hundred Luo family disciples who were captured this time, but only a little more than 100 of them returned alive. There were more than 10 who were severely injured. Although they had expected this, many of the Luo family elders could not help but cry. The only thing that comforted the Luo family patriarch was that Luo Shi was fine. It was all thanks to Yi Fei. The Luo family patriarch walked up to Yi Fei and was about to kneel down and say, "Nephew Yi Fei, it's all thanks to you. From now on, you are the great benefactor of our Luo family." "Uncle Luo, please don't. Luo Shi and I are brothers. If you kneel down to me, wouldn't that be dishonoring me?" Yi Fei smiled bitterly and quickly supported the Luo family patriarch. At this time, Luo Shi also said, "Father, now is not the time to talk about this. In order to save us, Brother Fei has already killed that debauchee Li Si. The city lord will definitely not let us go. We must immediately escape from Beast King City." "What? Li Si was killed by nephew Yi Fei? Good job. That debauchee was simply a tyrant in our Beast King City. Who knows how many women's chastity has been sullied? Good job." The Luo family patriarch laughed heartily, but after laughing, he and the other elders had to face a serious problem: the city lord's fury. Yi Fei found it funny when he saw the people of the Luo clan acting as if they were facing a great enemy. He had even killed a 10th-layer Martial King Realm cultivator. Why would he be afraid of a first-layer Martial King Realm cultivator? Yi Fei comforted them, "Don't worry, everyone. With me here, I can kill even a 10th-level Martial King, let alone a first-level Martial King." Boom! Yi Fei's words caused the hearts of the Luo family members to tremble violently. After that, they all thought that Yi Fei was joking. After the shock, they returned to what they were supposed to do. They all rushed to various places to pack their things and leave Beast King City. Even Luo Shi thought that Yi Fei was joking. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. "Brother Fei, this isn't the time to show off. That's a martial king we're talking about. He can annihilate us 1,000 times over with a flip of his hand. Let's take a step back for now and wait for Brother Fei to become a martial king. Then, it won't be too late for you to take revenge. Yi Fei felt very helpless. Could it be that he could tell Luo Shi that he had already killed a 10th-level martial king expert? Not only would that be shocking, it might even expose the secret of the sacred artifact. It wasn't that Yi Fei didn't trust Luo Shi, but it was better for fewer people to know about the sacred artifact. Thus, he didn't say anything more. It wouldn't be wrong to let the Luo family prepare themselves. Yi Fei sat cross-legged in the air by himself, waiting for the martial King City Lord to appear. After all, this was Beast King City. Before the old man arrived at 10,000 Years Mountain, there were already soldiers who had escaped with their lives. They quickly sent out voice transmission talismans to report Li Si's death and the relationship between Yi Fei and the Luo family. Luo family, it was actually you who killed Sierre. Unforgivable. It seems that this city lord has been too lenient to your families. Roar. The martial King City Lord roared like a wild beast. He was already above the Luo family with boundless anger. At this moment, the Luo family had just finished packing their things and were preparing to escape. When they felt the terrifying pressure of a martial king coming from the sky, everyone in the Luo family, from the head of the family to the servants, turned pale with fright. Luo Shi raised his golden warhammer and stood beside Yi Fei. His voice trembled uncontrollably as he said, "Brother Fei, what should we do? This is a martial king expert. Don't be afraid. Your Luo family should do what you need to do. I will go and meet this martial king and see how strong he is," Yi Fei said as he stood up. Luo Shi was speechless. That was a martial king. Why did Yi Fei make it sound like he was going to bully the martial King City Lord? However, Luo Shi also understood that since Yi Fei had made up his mind, there was no point in persuading him. Luo Shi found a safe place and watched with the other family members as Yi Fei slowly walked towards the martial King City Lord. The old man's gaze was also fixed on Yi Fei. The report he had received was that a young rank 10 martial honorable had killed his son and his housekeeper. Yi Fei's appearance fit the description perfectly. The old man's eyes revealed a thick murderous intent and anger. "Junior, are you a true disciple of the Taishan Holy Land? My son has no enmity with you. Why do you want to kill him?" The old man was very angry, but he did not dare to attack Yi Fei. Instead, he wanted to test Yi Fei's identity and see if he could afford to offend him. Yi Fei also nodded his head as he looked at the old man. "You have some brains. Unfortunately, you should not have offended my brother Luo Shi. You should not have allowed your son to do whatever he wanted. I could not stand it, so I killed you. You unfilial son, shouldn't you be thanking me?" Those words nearly caused the people of the Luo family to faint from fright. You've killed someone else's son and steward, yet you still want them to thank you? You're simply too arrogant. Furthermore, you're acting so arrogant in front of a martial king. The Luo family members were all speechless by Yi Fei's words. They were secretly worried for Yi Fei. Hearing these words, the old man was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were red as he gritted his teeth and pointed at Yi Fei with a trembling finger. Good, good, good. Ever since I became a martial king, no one has dared to say such words to me. I don't care who you are. Since you dared to kill my son, I will make you pay with your life. Roar. The old man was thoroughly enraged by Yi Fei. Even though he was a little apprehensive of Yi Fei's identity, when he thought of his son who had been killed, if he did not kill Yi Fei, where would his dignity as a martial king be? As if he knew what the old man was apprehensive about, Yi Fei added, "Don't worry, I am not from the Taishan Holy Land. I am actually a lone cultivator with no backing." Dong. Yi Fei's words caused many of the nervous Luo family disciples to fall to the ground in fright. Yi Fei's actions were no different from courting death. When the old man heard this, he was stunned. Then, his face was filled with joy and killing intent. What? You are actually a lone cultivator? How dare you kill my son? Damn it, I will turn you into ashes today. After saying this, he did not care whether Yi Fei was telling the truth or not. He suddenly attacked and sent a palm strike at Yi Fei. Like layers of waves, it surged forward and shook the houses of the Luo family. Many of the disciples fell to the ground with pale faces. Only then were they able to resist the might of the martial king's attack. Good timing. I have just broken through to the 10th level martial honorable realm and have not tried to challenge those of a higher level. Now let me see how big the gap is between me and a martial king. Rumble. Chapter 406. Killing a martial king. Yi Fei's actions shocked the Luo family. Yi Fei was already at a disadvantage against a martial king as a martial honorable. Now, under the attack of a martial king, Yi Fei was still able to face the martial king's aura head-on? How is this possible? The first person to be in disbelief was the city lord himself. He was a rank 1 martial king expert. Even a rank 10 martial honorable was an ant in his eyes. And now, there was an ant that was not afraid of the might of a martial king and was taking large strides forward. This in itself was an extremely shocking thing. The old man's expression greatly changed. Finally, he used a serious attitude to size up Yi Fei. What a young genius! If you didn't kill my son, I really wouldn't want to kill a genius like you. Your son deserved to be killed. You deserve to be killed as well. The old man in front of him had the strength of a martial king. He also had hundreds of martial ancestor realm soldiers. If he wanted to kill the vicious beasts, it would be a very simple matter. However, the old man did not do so. Instead, he used the city lord's power to forcefully capture the youths of the other families and send them to their deaths to kill the vicious beasts. Yi Fei did not care about how the city lord treated the other families. However, when he saw Luo she covered in blood and lying on the ground with serious injuries and not even having medicine to bandage his wounds, Yi Fei was truly furious. This was why he was so ruthless to help his brother vent his anger. Brat, how dare you? I admit that you are a genius. Unfortunately, you will never have the chance to grow. Now, I will let you know how terrifying a martial king is. The old man roared. Knowing that Yi Fei's golden body was terrifying, the old man decisively used his full strength. Giant wave overturning the heavens. The sky shook. As the old man waved his hand, large amounts of dark clouds quickly gathered. Then, huge raindrops the size of buckets exploded towards Yi Fei. Rumble! Suddenly, a huge water column gushed out from the ground, forming a huge wave that flooded the space Yi Fei was in. Everyone from the Luo family cried out in alarm. They were all natives of the Beast King city, so of course they knew that the city lord's strongest move was the giant wave palm. However, it was the first time that the city lord had used his strongest martial arts against a junior. This was the first time that he had used his strongest martial arts. Afterwards, everyone from the Luo family looked worriedly at the spot where Yi Fei had been submerged by the wave. Seeing that there was no movement in the huge wave for a long time, the old man let out a triumphant laugh. Ha ha, there's no need to look anymore. After being hit by this old man's full-strength giant wave overturning sky, no matter how talented that brat is, he will definitely be smashed into ashes by the huge wave. Impossible! Brother Fei can't be hurt. Luo she roared. Stubborn! Your Luo family is also responsible for my 4th son's death. Today, this old man will start a massacre and kill all 500 of your Luo family members. Not a single one will be spared. The old man's eyes shone with a cold light. Killing Yi Fei was only the first step of the old man's plan. He wanted to take the opportunity to eliminate the Luo family and the other families in the city and let the city lord's mansion dominate the city. Kill. None of the martial artists from the Luo family could withstand the aura of a martial king. They could only look on helplessly as the huge water droplets fell from the sky like rock. Sky Destroyer's sword, heaven-burying sword. Boom! Boom! The falling water droplets suddenly stopped. A sword light tore the dark clouds apart. Yi Fei, step by step, carried a soaring sword intent and killing intent. Finally, he managed to get rid of the killing power of the giant wave overturning sky. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth, and the battle demon's golden body was covered with cracks. Yi Fei's figure was in a sorry state. However, Yi Fei's face carried a sincere smile. A martial king is nothing more than this. Yi Fei had thought that the strength of a LV1 martial king would be as terrifying as Nan Ruofeng's. It was not until the old man's attack that Yi Fei realized that this LV1 martial king old man in front of him was no match for Nan Ruofeng and the other LV1 martial king geniuses. Even the dead LV1 martial king Chen Jie's strength was slightly stronger than this old man's. I have seen many martial king experts. You are the weakest one I have ever seen. Yi Fei looked at the old man with a mocking expression and waved the sword light in his hand. Boom! In the end, even the giant wave overturning sky and the giant wave overturning sky and earth were all shattered by Yi Fei's sword. They turned into flowing light and dissipated into the air. How is this possible? The old man was no longer shocked. Instead, he was horrified. The giant wave overturning sky was his strongest martial art. Even 10 LV10 martial honorable realm martial artists might not be able to withstand it. Not only did Yi Fei withstand it, he was only slightly injured? Luo Shi, this brother of yours is actually so freakishly strong? The disciples of the Luo family opened their eyes wide and looked up at the sky in disbelief. They looked up at Yi Fei's figure. Because he is Brother Fei. Luo Shi raised his head proudly and looked at Yi Fei. His eyes were filled with gratitude and determination. He swore in his heart that he would work hard to cultivate. Even if he could not catch up with Yi Fei, he would always follow in Yi Fei's footstep. Boom, boom, boom. The battle broke out again. However, this time, Yi Fei took the initiative to attack. He activated the LV4 Demon Emperor Scripture, and Yi Fei's Broken War Demon Golden Body reformed. Beast City Master, let's fight in the sky. Yi Fei lifted his feet and walked towards the clouds in the sky. He did not care if the old man below him would sneak an attack on him. This was Yi Fei's confidence in his strength. After breaking through to the LV10 Martial Honorable Realm, Yi Fei's every move was filled with confidence. This was his confidence in his own martial art. This was also the reason why the old man was so afraid of Yi Fei. Damn it! Where did the Luo clan get to know such a terrifying young man? However, since he killed my son, there's no way for me to resolve the matter with him. I can only take advantage of the fact that he hasn't grown up and get rid of this hidden danger. As the old man thought of this, his face suddenly turned cold. He chased after Yi Fei and rushed into the clouds in the sky. At the same time, a red demon glove made from a red gem appeared in his hand, and he wore it on his arm. A demon glove made from a top-grade weapon? Yi Fei's eyes narrowed. He immediately understood that the old man was determined to kill him and was going to use all his strength to deal with him. Haha, that's right. Young man, I admit that I have underestimated you. Now, I will show you my strongest strength. The old man revealed a confident smile. With the enhancement of the Red Devil Hand, the power of the old man's giant wave overturning the heavens had increased by at least 2 times compared to before. Giant wave overturning sky, destruction of mountains and rivers. The entire Beast King city was filled with the old man's majestic, furious, and murderous roar. At that moment, countless people in the Beast King city raised their heads to look at the sky. However, they simply couldn't see anyone. They could only see countless black clouds gathering in the sky above the Beast King city. Then, they turned into monstrous waves that surged upwards, as if they were going to drown the entire sky. However, what frightened the people was not the city master's terrifying attack. Instead, it was the sword radiance that was even more terrifying than a raging inferno and more dazzling than the sun. Wherever the sword radiance passed, even the sky was split in half. The heavens and earth trembled and the entire Beast King city shook violently. It was as if the city was going to be destroyed by the sword radiance. Chapter 407. Shocking the City Bang. Under the gazes of countless residents of Beast King City, the huge waves and dark clouds in the sky disappeared. The corpse of an old man wearing a battle robe slowly split into two halves and fell from the sky. Everyone recognized that old man as the Beast King City's city lord. He was the strongest existence in the Beast King City. However, that old man had died. He had been killed by a single sword ray from an empty-handed young man standing in the sky with his hands clasped behind his back. Heavens, that was the city lord, a first-layer martial king expert. When a cultivator saw this scene, his voice trembled uncontrollably. So what if he was the city lord? Since he became the city lord, has he done anything beneficial to our Beast King City? Many families that were suppressed by the city lord's mansion showed angry expressions. Originally, after Yi Fei killed Li Si, many families were afraid of being implicated. Like the Luo family, many families packed their things and prepared to escape. But when they saw that the city lord had been killed by Yi Fei using some unknown method, many shrewd patriarchs immediately gave up on the idea of escaping. In the past few years, they had been oppressed too ruthlessly by the old man. Who knew how many outstanding patriarchs had been forced to enter Longevity Mountain to die, becoming food for the vicious beast? When the city lord was still around, these families could not resist. They could only be angry but not say anything. Now, with the death of the old man, these families immediately saw the opportunity to take revenge. The Luo family head was the first to react. He threw the things he had packed on the ground and yelled, "Disciples of the Luo family, follow me. Our chance to take revenge is right in front of us." Then, the roars of the Luo family disciples echoed throughout the city. "Disciples of the Wei family, follow me. We will follow the Luo family. My Zhang family too. My Niu family too." It had to be said that the city lord's mansion of Beast King City had done all kinds of bad things. With the death of the city lord, there was no need for anyone to organize. In Beast King City, a large number of families, including a large number of rogue cultivators, cheered excitedly. Then, they angrily picked up their weapons and rushed toward the city lord's mansion. "Ha ha ha, Brother Fei, you really scared me. Even the first-layer Martial King City Lord was killed by you. I really don't know how you did it." Luo Shi flew into the sky with joy. Although he was not a martial honorable and could not fly freely, Luo Shi had a huge advantage. He could merge with a spirit eagle and obtain the eagle's ability to fly. But when Yi Fei saw Luo Shi with a pair of fleshy wings and a golden warhammer, he felt like laughing. If Luo Shi were to find a metal nail and hammer it with lightning, he would look like the thunder god of the future. Yi Fei had victory in this battle. Once the sacred weapon was used, even the blood-robed martial king of the 10th level of the martial king realm would be instantly killed, let alone the old man who was only at the 1st level of the martial king realm. If it weren't for the fact that there were too many people around, Yi Fei wouldn't have needed to lure the old man to the clouds in the sky. He could have killed him in an instant. There was no need for Yi Fei to do anything. Luo Shi, who was used to Yi Fei's style, had already searched the old man's body in advance. He took the old man's space bag and handed it to Yi Fei. "Brother Fei, this guy is a martial king. He must have treasures on him." Luo Shi rubbed his hands and said, "Go away. Even if there are treasures, don't even think about it. These are my spoils of war." Yi Fei scolded with a smile and then shook his head. It was a pity that the red devil hand, which was also a top-grade precious weapon, could not withstand the power of the sacred weapon, and shattered on the spot. Fortunately, the old man's body could still be used. Yi Fei allowed the blood Bodhi to absorb the old man's blood. He discovered that the blood Bodhi did not change much. However, when he thought about it, the demon emperor had killed 10 martial kings and 10,000 blood corpses before the blood Bodhi finally matured. It was obvious that maturing this blood Bodhi was not an easy task. Luo Shi could chat and laugh with Yi Fei. The people who remained in the Luo clan did not have the same courage as Luo Shi. After all, Yi Fei was someone who could kill a martial king. Even if they did not see the method Yi Fei used to kill a martial king. Just the sword light that could split the heavens and earth was enough to make all the cultivators in Beast King City feel reverence from the bottom of their hearts. After the big and small clans of Beast King City joined forces to destroy the City Lord's mansion and vent their pent-up resentment, no one dared to touch any of the treasures in the City Lord's mansion after considering the power of Yi Fei's sword that could kill a martial king. Under the Luo clan head's recommendation, all the clans lined up according to their strength and waited to seek an audience with Yi Fei. Yi Fei was still catching up with Luo Shi. When he heard the Luo clan's report, he immediately waved his hand impatiently and said, "I will not see them. Let them go." He had come to Beast King City purely because Luo Shi was here. He did not have any cultivation techniques to socialize with these clans. However, Honorable Nephew Yi, they said that they discovered a very mysterious underground palace in the City Lord's mansion. It is likely the place where the City Lord cultivated in seclusion. There are martial king restrictions there. Aside from Honorable Nephew Yi, no one can break through. The Luo clan head stood before Yi Fei very respectfully, not daring to be arrogant. He gave Luo Shi a meaningful glance. His meaning was, since you have a good relationship with Yi Fei, hurry up and persuade him. As long as Yi Fei is present, the other clans will definitely not dare to compete with the Luo clan for benefit. Luo Shi could only persuade him. Brother Fei, why don't we go and take a look? You killed the City Lord, so the treasures inside should belong to you. Even if you don't need them, you can take them back to the family Yi. Hey Luo Shi, you are right. Alright, let's go and take a look. Yi Fei also remembered that even though the Demon Emperor had returned to the Demon Ceiling Pagoda to recuperate with the Demon Emperor's level, it was impossible for him to give pointers to the ordinary clansmen of the family Yi. However, the treasures in the City Lord's mansion were different. Even if he did not need them, he could take them back to the family Yi. They could greatly increase the strength of the family Yi and Tianyun Wufu. Yi Fei, Luo Shi, and the Luo clan head walked out together. The clansmen of the various clans had already gathered outside. When they saw Yi Fei come out, they all gathered around him and bowed. Junior Nyo clan head welcomes Senior Yi to Beast King City. Senior Yi, please come visit our Wei clan when you have the time. Many thanks to Senior Yi for saving our Zhang clan's juniors and freeing them from the abyss of suffering. You even killed the evil City Lord and removed a scourge for our Beast King City. When they saw Yi Fei appear, these clan heads were full of smiles and flattery, making Yi Fei's head hurt. Fortunately, the Luo clan head greeted everyone and helped Yi Fei block them. The group of patriarchs looked sourly at the Luo clan's patriarch, calling him virtuous nephew Yi. Their hearts were filled with envy and jealousy. They knew that they had already missed the best opportunity to befriend Yi Fei. Now, no matter what they said, they were still lacking a layer. They also saw Luo Shi talking and laughing with Yi Fei along the way. With one look, they could tell that they were close friends. Then, they looked at their own clan's juniors. If they were not drinking buddies, then they were friends with scoundrels. The more the clan elders thought about it, the more unbalanced they felt. They could not help but scold the juniors who followed them for failing to live up to expectations. Some even kicked them a few times. Look at Luo Shi. He went out for a trip, and not only did he become successful, He even made friends with such a noble person. What about you guys? What do you do besides strolling around Beast King City all day? Pa pa pa. Chapter 408. Enyang Thousand Beast Pill. By the time Yi Fei arrived at the city lord's mansion, the battle had already ended. Without a martial king overseeing it, the city lord's mansion could not even put up a decent resistance against the anger of the oppressed Beast King City's residents. It had already been breached. However, no one dared to touch the treasures in the city lord's mansion. After all, it was Yi Fei who had killed the city lord. If Yi Fei did not touch it, who would dare to touch it? Senior Yi, please come this way. This is the underground palace where the city lord used to go into seclusion. According to the city lord's concubine that we captured, the secret of the city lord's breakthrough to Martial King is inside. If you take a step inside, you will be killed. A clan head who had been waiting there led Yi Fei to a very strange underground palace. Although it was called an underground palace, it was actually no different from a wild beast's cave. Before Yi Fei even got close, he could faintly feel that the blood body on his body seemed to be glowing. Needless to say, there was definitely a large amount of blood qi in the underground palace. Furthermore, it had to be martial ancestor realm blood qi. Only then would the blood body's power be activated. Could it be that there are a large number of martial ancestor realm corpses in there? Yi Fei faintly had a bad feeling in his heart. He immediately said to the surrounding clans, "All of you leave. I will go in alone to take a look." Yes. Senior Yi, please be careful. The clans did not dare to delay and left one after another. Clan head Luo also left. Only Luo she remained. He held his golden warhammer and said, "Brother Fei, I will stay here and help you guard." "Alright." Yi Fei nodded his head. Now that Luo she had a top-quality artifact, the golden warhammer, he could already kill a first or second layer martial saint. He did not need to worry about the clans spying on him when he used his sacred artifact. While Luo she was guarding the entrance, Yi Fei had already walked into the strange cave. As he walked in, the smell of blood became even stronger. When they reached the end of the cave, there was a stone door. There was a very strong rune light imprinted on it. Needless to say, this was definitely a restriction set up by the Beast King City's city lord. Without the strength of a martial king, it would be impossible to open it. This was not a problem for Yi Fei. He took out the phoenix blood sword and stabbed forward. With a boom, the stone door in front of him was completely destroyed along with the array formation by Yi Fei. Holding the phoenix blood sword, Yi Fei walked into this extremely secretive secret room. The moment he entered, a dense smell of blood assaulted his senses. What they saw was an incomparably shocking scene. This was a huge underground cavern. In the middle of the cavern, there was a blood river that flowed endlessly. The blood of the vicious beasts was flowing inside the cavern. Yi Fei looked at the source of the blood river. He discovered that there were tens of thousands of martial ancestor vicious beasts' corpses. There were even martial honorable demonic beasts' corpses. There were layers upon layers of corpses that formed a terrifying mountain of corpses. After careful observation, Yi Fei also discovered that the arrangement of the mountain of corpses was very particular. The corpses on the left were all male vicious beasts. The corpses on the right were all female vicious beasts. The blood on the left is all yang blood. The blood on the right is all yin blood. What does the Beast King City's city lord want to do with the blood of these vicious beasts? Yi Fei was very curious. He simply walked down the blood river. He discovered that the blood was flowing in the same way as the veins of a human body. The entire underground palace was like a picture of a dissected blood vessel. At the end of the picture was a huge elixir furnace. All the blood gathered here and continuously washed the fist-sized vicious beast's inner elixir. The inner elixirs of other vicious beasts flowed along the blood river and were absorbed by the black inner elixir. The inner elixir became even more lustrous. However, The strange thing was that the inner elixir of the vicious beasts did not have the slightest evil feeling after absorbing the blood chi. Instead, it emitted a strong medicinal fragrance. There's a medicinal fragrance. Could it be that the Beast King City's city lord wants to use 100,000 martial ancestor vicious beasts to refine elixirs? Yi Fei was shocked. Although he did not know much about alchemy, Yi Fei had never heard of such a method of refining elixirs. It was simply unbelievable. There's a futon over there. It should be the place where the Beast King City's city lord often cultivate. Yi Fei quickly walked over. On the stone platform of the futon, he discovered a total of 2 things. One of them was the cultivation manual of the colossal wave palm. Colossal wave palm, a heaven-level upper-rank martial art. Damn, no wonder the martial king's attack was so weak. He's already a martial king, yet he's still using a heaven-level martial art. However, from this, Yi Fei finally understood how difficult it was for a cultivator to obtain profound cultivation techniques and martial art. I can't use this colossal wave palm, but I can bring it back to my family Yi. Perhaps in the near future, my family Yi will also have a genius in palm technique. What's this? Yin Yang Thousand Beast Elixir? Could it be that this is the reason why the martial king hunted the vicious beasts? Yi Fei impatiently started to read it seriously. After spending an hour, Yi Fei finally finished reading the copy of the Yin Yang Thousand Beast Elixir. A flash of understanding appeared in his eyes. So that's how it is. The Beast King City's city lord killed 100,000 vicious beasts to refine the Yin Yang Thousand Beast Elixir. According to the notes of the Beast King City's city lord, Yi Fei knew that the Beast King City had a very long history. Thousands of years ago, this place was actually a branch of the ancient sect, the Thousand Beasts sect. As such, there were many beast-related techniques that were passed down. In the depths of the 10,000 Years Mountain, cultivators would occasionally discover secret realms left behind by the disciples of the Thousand Beasts sect after they died. The Beast King City's city lord discovered the remains of an ancient sect by chance. From there, he obtained the method to refine the Yin Yang Thousand Beast Elixir. He also learned that as long as he followed the method of this elixir, not only would he be able to forcefully break through to the martial king realm, but he would also be able to smoothly break through to the first layer of the martial king realm with every thousand beast elixir he refined. It could be said to be heaven-defying. However, there were always pros and cons. Since the Yin Yang Thousand Beast Elixir was so heaven-defying, it naturally had a huge side effect. The resentment of the vicious beasts that were killed would also remain in the Yin Yang Thousand Beast Elixir and be absorbed by the cultivator. The resentment of one vicious beast was nothing. However, if the resentment of 10,000 vicious beasts were to be combined, even the mental consciousness of a martial king would be torn to shreds. Thus, the Beast King City's city lord thought of an incomparably wonderful method. He did not personally hunt the vicious beast. Instead, he forced the other clans of the Beast King City to help him hunt the vicious beast. Not only did this weaken the resentment of the vicious beasts, it also weakened the strength of these clans, making them unable to resist the oppression of the city lord's mansion. What a vicious plan to kill 2 birds with 1 stone! After reading the contents of the Yin Yang Thousand Beast Elixir, Yi Fei could not help but marvel at the city lord's scheme. Unfortunately, a scheme was still a scheme. In the face of an absolute difference in strength, no matter how many schemes the city lord had, they were all mercilessly shattered by Yi Fei's sword. Chapter 409. Advancing to martial king. After walking around the underground palace, Yi Fei discovered that there were no other treasures in the vicinity. Yi Fei didn't care about the Yin Yang 10,000 beast pill that was still in the process of being refined. Instead, he walked out of the cave again. "Brother Fei, how was it? Did you not find anything inside?" Luo Shi saw Yi Fei walk out not long after entering, and could not help but feel suspicious. He thought that Yi Fei did not find anything. Haha, Luo Shi, it's all thanks to you this time. I discovered the method for the Beast King City's city lord to break through to Martial King. According to his method, I will also break through to Martial King very soon. Yi Fei said happily. At the same time, he secretly observed Luo Shi's reaction. After all, everyone below Martial King was an ant. A secret like this was enough to cause many friends to turn against each other. Hearing this, Luo Shi was extremely shocked. What? The secret to breaking through to Martial King? Could it be related to the city lord forcing us to hunt vicious beasts for the past few years? I knew it, the city lord's talent was only average. How could he break through to Martial King? Luo Shi reacted very quickly. With Yi Fei's words, he more or less understood how the city lord of Beast King City broke through. After his shock, Luo Shi became happy again. He even winked at Yi Fei and said, "Brother Fei, congratulations on breaking through to Martial King. Don't forget about us brothers who are struggling. Scram to the side. You're the first young master of the Luo clan. If you're still struggling, wouldn't you be making us ordinary people starve?" Yi Fei pretended to be angry and kicked Luo Shi. However, he was very satisfied with Luo Shi's reaction. Even though he knew that there was a chance to break through to Martial King, Luo Shi did not show any greed. He had not befriended this brother for nothing. "Brother Fei, this underground palace is so precious. Do you want me to chase away the other clan members in advance?" After joking around, Luo Shi's expression became serious again. After all, the method to break through to Martial King was hidden here. Once the news spread, countless experts would immediately come to fight for it. Especially those 10th-layer martial saints who did not have much lifespan left. They might even fight with their lives on the line. Yi Fei understood Luo Shi's worries, but after thinking about it, he realized that if he chased them out, they would be even more suspicious. In any case, he had a sacred artifact in his hands, so he wasn't afraid that they would have any bad intentions. As such, Yi Fei waved his hand and said, "Forget it. Let them continue their search. Just don't let them disturb me in the underground palace. By the way, Luo Shi, I'll have to trouble you to help me collect a large amount of vicious beasts' cores. Money is not a problem." In order to refine the Yinyang 10,000 beast pill, the blood of vicious beasts was one aspect. There was another important final step, which was to use a large amount of vicious beasts' inner cores to complete the final stage of refining the pill. Hearing that Yi Fei needed the inner cores of vicious beasts, Luo Shi did not ask why. He only nodded solemnly and said, "Brother Fei, don't worry. I can help you collect all the inner cores of vicious beasts in Beast King City. Forget about the money. You killed the city lord and helped our city get rid of a scourge. I believe the other clans would be happy to take out their inner cores to befriend you." "That won't do. If I use trickery and force, how would I be different from the Beast King City's city lord? How about this? Tell those clans that aside from this underground palace, I don't want any of the treasures in the city lord's residence. I only want them to hand over all their vicious beasts' inner cores to me." Yi Fei shook his head. He did not want to ask for it directly. Even if the clans in the city did not complain, he would still owe them a lot of favors. "All right, Brother Fei. I'll pass on the message to my father and the other clan heads." Luo Shi understood that Yi Fei did not want to owe him any favors. He hurriedly called over the younger generation of the Luo clan to help pass on Yi Fei's request. Sure enough, when they heard that Yi Fei was willing to give up the treasures in the city lord's residence and only ask them to hand over all their vicious beasts' inner cores, not only did the clans in Beast King City not complain, they even cheered loudly. "Long live Senior Yi! As long as we use some vicious beast's inner cores, we can divide the treasures and benefits of the city lord's residence as we wish. Senior Yi is taking care of us. Hurry up and go back. Immediately take out all the vicious beasts' inner cores in the clan and send them to Senior Yi. In Beast King City, vicious beasts and monster beasts were the greatest cultivation resources. If Yi Fei asked these clans to hunt vicious beasts, they would be worried that there would be too many casualties. However, if it was just asking for the inner cores of vicious beasts, it could not be any simpler. As clans that had established themselves in Beast King City for hundreds of years, it was not just these clans, but also the common people. Every household had a large collection of vicious beasts' inner cores. Once Yi Fei's order was passed down, a total of 200,000 vicious beasts' inner cores of different grades appeared in front of Yi Fei in less than a day. This gave Yi Fei a fright. He felt that Beast King City's resources were really deep. Sai, the city lord of Beast King City, had originally cooperated well with everyone. He could have easily refined the Yin-Yang Thousand Beast Pill. However, due to his greed, he wanted to break through to Martial King and dominate Beast King City. In the end, it was all for naught. Shaking his head slightly, Yi Fei took the inner cores of the vicious beasts and returned to the underground palace. He began the final step of refining the Yin-Yang Thousand Beast Pills pill formula. This was also Yi Fei's first time refining pills. At the beginning, he thought that it would be very difficult. However, he discovered that the pill formula was very simple. It did not have as many complicated steps as other pills, such as temperature and heat control. In the end, Yi Fei concluded that there were only 2 steps required to refine the Yin-Yang 10,000 Beast Pill. The first step was to kill enough martial ancestor realm ferocious beasts. The second step was to use enough ferocious beast cores to absorb the blood of the ferocious beast. Thus, even though Yi Fei knew nothing about refining pills, he still managed to successfully refine the Yin-Yang Thousand Beast Pill after a month. When he felt the world-shaking aura of the vicious beasts in the pill in his hand, Yi Fei knew that this was the Yin-Yang Thousand Beast Pill that could forcefully break through to Martial King. As long as I consume it, I will be able to break through to Martial King. 1. As if it could sense Yi Fei's feelings, the undying sword soul in his body also expressed its impatience, as if it also wanted to taste the pill. Yi Fei also decisively cut off the connection with the undying sword soul. What a joke, this sword soul was already very picky with its food. If it consumed the Yin-Yang Thousand Beast Pill, how could it live in the future? Boom. He immediately activated the Demon Emperor's scripture and began to absorb the energy of the Yin-Yang Thousand Beast Pill. Roar. Following the absorption of the pill, the boundless resentment of the ferocious beasts contained within immediately emerged, turning into a huge mouth, as if wanting to bite the enemy in front of it into pieces. Yi Fei was already prepared. With a thought, he communicated with the ancient beast mark on his shoulder. Instantly, a mysterious pressure was emitted from the ancient beast mark, which actually dispersed the resentment of the beast. The Yin-Yang Thousand Beast Pill in his hand was also successfully refined by the Demon Emperor's scripture. Boom. A month later, Beast King City suddenly shook violently, causing all the cultivators who lived in the city to feel a great sense of fear. Then, this fear turned into a deep force, as if the sky had collapsed, and it pressed down on every cultivator's heart. The force of a ruler? Could it be that Brother Fei has broken through to Martial King? Luo Jing opened his eyes and stood up to look at the underground palace that he had been guarding for a month. His expression gradually became excited. Another 2 months passed. In the underground palace, Yi Fei finally succeeded in cultivating the 4th layer of the Demon Emperor's scripture and officially entered the realm of 1st layer Martial King. After breaking through to Martial King, he immediately felt that the battle demon golden body had changed. After obtaining the complete Demon Emperor scripture, Yi Fei understood that the battle demon golden body was not only a cultivation technique, but also a special physique that was cultivated after birth. After successfully cultivating it, it was known as one of the 10 strongest physiques in ancient times. However, in order to obtain the battle demon golden body, Yi Fei had to find a way to cultivate the demon emperor's scripture to the 7th layer, which was the level of the demon emperor. Then, he would be like the demon emperor. Even if he was suppressed for 3,000 years, he would still be alive and kicking. At the same time, every time the battle demon golden body broke through a layer, Yi Fei would obtain some of the characteristics of the battle demon golden body. For example, the first layer could avoid sabers and swords, the second layer could avoid water and fire, and the third layer could avoid poison. The 4th layer of the battle demon golden body was also known as the immortal body. It could actually help Yi Fei block a fatal attack. So, as long as my head is not broken, even if my body is smashed to pieces, as long as the battle demon golden body is still operating, it can instantly restore me? Yi Fei felt the characteristics of the 4th layer of the battle demon golden body and secretly clicked his tongue. At the same time, he felt a little regretful. Chapter 410. Returning to Sword Peak 3 days later, Yi Fei officially walked out of the underground palace. When he went out to take a look, he was greeted by a sea of people. Not only were the clans from Beast King City here, but even some of the nearby cities had rushed over with congratulatory gifts when they heard that a new martial king had been born in Beast King City. They hoped to befriend Yi Fei. If not for Luo Shi standing guard outside with his golden warhammer, these people would have rushed to the entrance of the cave to watch Yi Fei. Isn't it just a breakthrough to martial king? Why are these people making such a fuss? Yi Fei did not like crowds. Martial cultivation was actually a very simple and austere affair. True experts would cultivate in seclusion, and repeat the process over and over again. Those cultivators who constantly entertained others would more or less affect their own cultivation. However, before Yi Fei could refuse, Luo Shi had already patted his head in an exaggerated manner and said, "It's nothing. Brother Fei, do you know how difficult it is for ordinary cultivators to break through to martial king? Only 1 in 10,000 has a chance of success. I'll have to trouble you to leave us ordinary martial artists a way out." Ordinary cultivators? Luo Shi, it's only been half a year since we last met and your mouth has improved. Yi Fei really wanted to kick Luo Shi. This fellow had the special constitution of an acquired beast body and could be considered a genius. How could he have the nerve to call himself an ordinary cultivator? Luo Shi chuckled and said, "I'm not used to bickering with that bitch Wang Bai all day." Luo Shi suddenly could not continue speaking when he mentioned the mysterious disappearance of Wang Bai. Yi Fei also sighed and patted Luo Shi on the shoulder. "Once a brother, forever a brother. As long as we work hard in our cultivation, we will meet Wang Bai again sooner or later. Oh right, the 1-year period is almost up. I plan to rush to Sword Peak now. Are you coming with me?" "Damn, of course I'm coming. I've already made up my mind to follow in your footsteps." Luo Shi had a smile on his face. Then, he could no longer speak to Yi Fei. Noticing that Yi Fei had come out of seclusion, a large group of family heads had already broken through the Luo family's blockade and were rushing towards Yi Fei. "Congratulations on breaking through to Martial King, Senior Yi. This is just a small gift. Please accept it. It would be even better if you could visit our great sky city when you have time. Hurry up and scram. What are you trying to cut in line for? Our Beast King City's clans are all friends with Senior Yi. Senior Yi, what do you think of my son's aptitude? Does he have any hope of becoming Senior Ye's disciple? Young Master Yi, are you married?" "My daughter is only 16 years old, but she has admired you for a long time. If you don't mind, it took Yi Fei 3 days just to deal with the greetings of these clans. Only then did he realize how great the impact of the appearance of a martial king could have on a place. Although the Heavenly Een cult's order to kill Yi Fei had reached Beast King City, everyone present had chosen to ignore it. This made Yi Fei sigh. When he was still a small martial venerable, no one cared about him when he was chased by the heavenly Een cult. Now that he had broken through to martial king, he was surrounded by flowers and flattered endlessly. This was the difference between a martial king and a martial venerable. Anyone below martial king was an ant. After all, they had all come with smiles on their faces, so Yi Fei couldn't be too cold. After a few days of simple socializing and waiting for Luo Shi to finish dealing with the Luo family's affairs, Yi Fei grabbed Luo Shi, tore open the void, and stepped in. Luo Shi immediately prostrated himself in admiration of Yi Fei's domineering method of traveling. The Great Void Steps was indeed an emperor-level martial art. It was amazing to use it to travel. The distance from Beast King City to Taishan Holy Land was at least 100,000 miles. It would take an ordinary warrior 3 months to half a year to travel. However, Yi Fei, who was in the martial king realm, had used the Great Void Step. In just 10 days, he had already seen the outline of Taishan City. At this time, Luo Shi hadn't come to his senses yet, but they had already arrived at Taishan Holy Land. Luo Shi was so excited that he looked up to the sky and roared, "Ah, this is so cool. Brother Fei, I also want to break through to Martial King as soon as possible. Then I, Luo Shi, can also travel so domineeringly." Seeing Luo Shi dancing with joy, Yi Fei couldn't help but smile. Other martial kings couldn't travel as fast as him. This was completely due to the exquisiteness of the Great Void Step. What a pity! Why did that little girl in Shanghua only have the Great Void Step? If she had the Great Void Technique, it would be even better. Yi Fei felt that he was becoming more and more evil. It wasn't enough to bully the little girl once, and now he wanted to bully her a second time. As they got closer to Taishan City, the smile on Yi Fei's face gradually became cold again. He didn't forget that a year ago, he had left here in disappointment. In the end, he was kicked out of Taishan Holy Land and became an abandoned disciple of the Holy Land. Now, a year had passed, and the resentment in Yi Fei's heart had not lessened. As they got closer to Taishan City, his expression became colder and colder. "Nan Ruofeng, in a year, I successfully broke through to Martial King and returned to the Holy Land. I hope that after a year, your strength won't disappoint me too much." As Yi Fei spoke, a strong sense of confidence and fighting spirit emerged from him. He didn't even enter Taishan City. He directly used the Great Void Steps and descended into the small world of Taishan Holy Land. "Brother Fei, are you?" Luo Shi seemed to have guessed something. Boom. Sure enough, in the next second, Yi Fei directly kicked a big hole in the small world of the Holy Land. He grabbed Luo Shi, and the two entered the small world of Taishan Holy Land together. At this time, Yi Fei really felt a sense of exaltation, and Yi Fei couldn't help but let out a long sigh. In a year, Taishan Holy Land had undergone amazing changes. There were fewer fights between the disciples. What he saw was that the disciples coming and going were all well-behaved. Even when they walked, they were divided into left and right side. They were as strict as mechanical dolls. "I haven't been back for a year. How did the Holy Land become so unfamiliar? It seems like it's missing something." Luo Shi looked down at the outer disciples walking below, deep in thought. They lack a soul, and they lack a backbone and courage. On the surface there seems to be order, but in fact it's a pool of stagnant water. Yi Fei made an unceremonious evaluation. Presumptuous, under the leadership of Senior Nan Ruofeng, our Holy Land has changed every day, and is thriving. Yi Fei, you are just an abandoned disciple of our Holy Land. Who allowed you to come back? You even dared to break through the small world. How dare you? Hearing the discussion between Yi Fei and Luo Shi, a group of Mountain River List disciples inside the Holy Land flew over and tried to stop Yi Fei. They were all furious. It must be known that in the past few years, there had been 2 consecutive instances where someone had destroyed the small world. The first time was when Nan Ruofeng returned, and the second time was when Yi Fei barged in. But Nan Ruofeng's return was what everyone expected. Not to mention Nan Ruofeng breaking through the small world. Even if he destroyed the small world, it was because of Senior Nan's tyrannical strength. He was the hope of the Holy Land's revival. Who do you think you are, Yi Fei? You don't have any abilities. You are just an ant in the eyes of Senior Nan, an abandoned disciple of the Holy Land, a stray dog chased by the Tian-En religion. You actually learned from Senior Nan's methods, and used such a move. Chapter 411. Violently beating a dog blocking the road. Yi Fei, you sure have guts. As an abandoned disciple of the Sacred Lands, stepping into the Sacred Lands, you deserve the death penalty, and now you dare to destroy our Sacred Land's small world. Why aren't you kneeling down and accepting your death? Huang Shu swaggered as he flew over, his aura extremely vigorous. Yi Fei then realized that after not seeing him for a year, Huang Shu's strength had already reached the 5th level of the martial honorable realm, and there were still remnants of qi from pills on his body. He knew that in the past year, Huang Shu had definitely obtained many benefits from Nan Ruofeng. And you, Luo Shi, as a disciple of the Sacred Lands, you actually call an abandoned disciple brother. You are truly throwing the face of the Sacred Lands. Why aren't you drawing a line with Yi Fei? Are you going to betray the Sacred Lands? Ma Zai was awe-inspiring. His aura was even stronger than Huang Shu's, as he was already a 6th-level martial honorable. Seems like Nan Ruofeng's reforms have some results. What a pity, the Sacred Lands have so many geniuses, but he did not nurture them, and instead nurtured Huang Shu and Ma Zai, these two useless people. He is truly selfish. In Yi Fei's heart, he gave a more objective evaluation of Nan Ruofeng's reforms in the past year. After that, he no longer looked at Huang Shu and Ma Zai, but Yi Fei was too lazy to argue with them. Hearing that someone was slandering Yi Fei, Luo Shi could not take it. What, Brother Fei was expelled from the Sacred Lands? How come I don't know about this? Did Sword Peak say anything? Sword Peak did not say anything. What are you all shouting for? Brother Fei is back. Why aren't you all moving aside? Luo Shi bellowed. His aura was extremely imposing. The group of Mountain River List disciples who had gathered around started to become restless. After all, Yi Fei was once the #1 expert of the Mountain River List, and even had Sword Peak as his backing. He was not someone that ordinary Mountain River List disciples could provoke. As for Yi Fei being expelled from the Sacred Lands, everyone knew what was going on, and in private, there were many who secretly applauded Yi Fei's way of doing things. Besides those disciples that wholeheartedly curried favor with Nan Ruofeng, most of the disciples were still able to distinguish right from wrong. After the commotion, a person immediately stepped out from the crowd and looked at Yi Fei with a complicated expression. Suddenly, he led a small group of people and said loudly, "So it's Senior Brother Yi who has returned. Since it's not an enemy attacking the small world, we naturally have no reason to stop you. Shangguan Lu, you bastard!" Huang Shu and Ma Zai were enraged. During this period of time, they had calculated that Yi Fei might return. They had purposely waited here to prevent Yi Fei from going to the Sword Peak. They had even planned to humiliate Yi Fei. In the end, Shangguan Lu had betrayed them and openly went against them. Huang Xiu and Ma Zai were so angry that their bodies trembled. Yi Fei also looked at Shangguan Lu with some surprise. He thought that Shangguan Lu might have sided with Nan Ruofeng after escaping from the shadow of the 10th prince. Now it seemed that Shangguan Lu was a good person. "Thank you, Shangguan Lu. Come visit Sword Peak when you are free." Yi Fei nodded at Shangguan Lu in a friendly manner. Shangguan Lu also bowed back with a complicated expression. Shangguan Lu made such a decision to repay Yi Fei for his advice. It was better to be a beggar than to be a slave. That sentence had finally made Shangguan Lu determined to be independent from the shadow of the 10th prince and walk his own path. It was also because of that sentence that Shangguan Lu's strength had soared in the past year, and he had broken through to the first level of the martial honorable realm. But repaying his gratitude was one thing. To completely stand on Yi Fei's side, Shangguan Lu was still very hesitant. So he did not reply to Yi Fei's invitation. Huang Shu and Ma Zai's expressions changed. Anyway, with their current strength, it did not matter if they needed Shangguan Lu's help or not. The majority of the Mountain River List disciples still stood behind the two of them and did not move with Shangguan Lu. You guys really want to go against Brother Fei? Luo Shi's face darkened. Looking at the Mountain River List disciples, Huang Shu and Ma Zai's faces immediately turned ugly. The current Tai Xian sacred lands belonged to Nan Ruofeng's era. Even the core disciples had to look at their faces. Since when did an ordinary inner sect disciple dare to speak to them like that? Luo Shi, you impudent! From today onwards, when trash like you see me, you must kneel down and speak to me. Huang Shu's face was cold. His fifth-level martial honorable realm cultivation suddenly erupted and rushed towards Luo Shi. He wanted Luo Shi to kneel down in front of him, but Luo Shi did not dodge. He even mocked Huang Shu, who was rushing over. This caused the Mountain River List disciples to be surprised. Was Luo Shi stupid or crazy? Huang Shu was currently a fifth-level martial honorable realm expert. How could Luo Shi, who was only a martial ancestor, resist him? But everyone had forgotten that it was not only Luo Shi who was present. Without a sound, Yi Fei had already appeared in front of Huang Shu. Make my brother kneel down and talk. Huang Shu, you're still the same as before. Forget it, I'll let you remember the happy experiences between you and me. Boom. Yi Fei raised one of his hands, bringing along a gust of wind. He suddenly slapped towards Huang Shu's face. At that moment, Huang Shu recalled the painful experience of being slapped by Yi Fei every time he saw Yi Fei. But that was in the past, when he, Huang Shu, was not as good as Yi Fei. The current Yi Fei was just a stray dog with nowhere to go. He, Huang Shu, was already a fifth-level martial honorable realm expert. Yi Fei was still so despicable, slapping his face the moment they met? Intolerable! Roar Yi Fei, I will definitely slap your face today. Behind Huang Shu, another 8 true essence arms appeared. With his fifth-level martial honorable realm cultivation, it was enough to smash a mountain into pieces. Yi Fei's reaction was very calm. He did not even look as he continued to slap Huang Shu's 8 true essence arms. All of them were smashed into pieces. Then, with a pause sound, the clear sound of a slap rang out in the sky. Huang Shu was dumbfounded. What was going on? He was already a fifth-level martial honorable realm, but he was still being slapped by Yi Fei. What was worse was that Yi Fei was still slapping his face this time. Yi Fei, I will fight you to the death. Huang Shu was furious. He did not need to look in the mirror to know that there was a clear handprint on his face. Ma Zai, what are you standing there for? Hurry up and beat Yi Fei to death. Help me vent my anger. Roar. It was not safe for him to rush up, so Huang Shu did not forget to call Ma Zai over. However, before Ma Zai could do anything, another clear slap rang out, landing on Huang Shu's face. Clear and symmetrical handprints appeared on both sides of Huang Shu's face. How can this be? Huang Shu was completely dumbfounded. This time, he had already pushed his fifth-level martial honorable realm to the limit. How could Yi Fei still hit his face so easily? 2 slaps were not enough. Yi Fei grabbed Huang Shu's collar and slapped him left and right. His slaps were like a torrential rain, fiercely landing on Huang Shu's face. Pa pa pa. Pa 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 pa. Yi Fei's slaps were loud and heavy. The entire sky was filled with rhythmic slap. Many of the Mountain River List disciples could not help but sing along. Today is a good day. When they sang that, they wanted to bite their own tongues. Damn, this Yi Fei actually slapped Huang Shu's face like music. So strong, senior brother Yi is too strong. Huang Shu, who is a 5th-level martial honorable realm, is unable to resist Yi Fei? Needless to say, senior brother Ye's strength definitely exceeds the 5th-level martial honorable realm. The only one who can save Huang Shu is senior brother Ma Zai. Shua. Chapter 412. An elder makes a move. Slap, 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 slap. Yi Fei did not know how many times he had slapped Huang Shu. Huang Shu was dizzy and was crying for his parent. However, it was useless. Yi Fei did not seem to have any intention of stopping. Ma Zai's expression turned extremely ugly. He and Huang Shu originally thought that by relying on Nan Ruofeng and advancing by leaps and bounds, they could finally avenge their previous humiliation and ruthlessly humiliate Yi Fei. Never in their wildest dreams would they have thought that Yi Fei would not only survive the pursuit of the heavenly Yin sect, but also become stronger and more abnormal than them. What was Yi Fei's current cultivation level? Ma Zai did not dare to think about it, nor did he have the time to think about it. After all, the entire sacred land knew that Ma Zai had publicly become Nan Ruofeng's dog. Huang Shu was Nan Ruofeng's brother-in-law. How could Ma Zai watch as Huang Shu was abused by Yi Fei? Why aren't you stopping? Ma Zai was enraged. Without saying anything, he tried to sneak an attack on Yi Fei and save Huang Shu at the same time. Yi Fei die. Ma Zai was afraid that the strength of a 6th-level martial honorable was not enough. He steeled himself and a golden sword suddenly appeared in his hand as he stabbed forward. Nan Ruofeng's golden sword? Yi Fei's eyes lit up. No wonder Huang Shu was as weak as a little chick. Nan Ruofeng had given this supreme-grade artifact to Ma Zai. This is your reward for being a dog. A supreme-grade artifact is enough to make you give up your dignity as a human? Shut up. Yi Fei, if not for you, I, Ma Zai, would have become someone's dog. Today, I will take your life. Ma Zai was enraged. Ma Zai had been willing to be Nan Ruofeng's dog. However, if Yi Fei had not challenged Nan Ruofeng in public, would Nan Ruofeng have made him bark like a dog? Although Ma Zai had obtained many benefits after becoming Nan Ruofeng's dog and his strength had increased rapidly, Ma Zai knew that his reputation had already been tarnished. Not only did the elders look down on him, but even many outer sect disciples would have expressions of disdain when they mentioned him. Ma Zai didn't dare to hate Nan Ruofeng for forcing him to be a dog, so he simply transferred all his hatred onto Yi Fei. The peak-grade treasure tool, the golden sword, also gave Ma Zai great confidence. With this sword in hand, he was confident that he could kill a level 10 martial honorable. He did not believe that Yi Fei would be able to block his sword. However, when he saw Ma Zai's golden sword coming at him, Yi Fei only made one move. He extended 2 fingers and clamped down on the golden sword. The quintessential yuan that Ma Zai had attached to the golden sword was completely destroyed. Then, even the golden sword was snatched away by Yi Fei with his bare hands. 1. As if it could feel the terrifying qi in Yi Fei's body, the golden sword didn't even dare to resist and was completely subdued by Yi Fei. Haha, good sword. I can't use this plaything, but I can give it to Uncle Jian as a meeting gift. It can also become the family Ye's family treasure. In front of Ma Zai, Yi Fei completely erased Ma Zai's spiritual imprint from the golden sword and kept it in his interspatial ring. Pooh! With that, Ma Zai's spirit suffered a heavy blow. He was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood 3 meters away. The spectating Mountain River List disciples were also in an uproar. What realm was Yi Fei in? Even Ma Zai, who had the golden sword, was not Yi Fei's opponent. Don't tell me Yi Fei's realm is martial. Martial King. When he said the word Martial King, the disciple's voice was trembling. Nonsense, is it so easy to break through to Martial King? Yi Fei doesn't have the same Martial King aura as senior brother Nan. Even more disciples didn't agree. Even Nan Ruofeng took 3 years to break through to Martial King. If Yi Fei broke through to Martial King in 1 year, that would be too exaggerated. Ma Zai also didn't think that Yi Fei had broken through to Martial King. He only guessed that Yi Fei had used some special method to take away his golden sword. Without the top-grade treasure, Ma Zai was scared out of his wits. He didn't dare to fight with Yi Fei and turned to escape. Where do you think you're going? Yi Fei wouldn't let Ma Zai escape so easily. With a move of his feet, he appeared in front of Ma Zai in an instant and lightly patted Ma Zai's shoulder. Boom! It was as if an incomparably heavy mountain was pressing down on him. Ma Zai screamed miserably as Yi Fei pressed him from the sky to the ground. Then, with 2 cracking sounds, Ma Zai's legs were broken and he knelt in front of Yi Fei. He looked at Yi Fei with eyes full of fear. Yi Fei, don't kill me. I beg you, don't kill me. Ma Zai was so scared that he started crying. It was obvious that he was terrified. Seeing Ma Zai so terrified, Yi Fei was a little speechless. He continued to ask with a stern face, "It's fine if I don't kill you. I remember that a year ago, you schemed to use the 7-star flower to frame me. Who ordered you to do that?" Yi Fei hadn't forgotten about that mission. Originally, he wanted to investigate thoroughly when he returned. In the end, he was delayed by too many things. Now that he had the chance, he naturally wanted to get to the bottom of it. He looked at Yi Fei in fear. Ma Zai did not dare to hide anything. It was the Ouyang family patriarch. He blamed you for killing Ouyang Jie, so he bribed me to frame you. As expected, it was someone from the Ouyang family. His guess was confirmed. Yi Fei's eyes flashed a look of anger. Take Huang Shu and scram. Go back and pass a message to Nan Ruofeng. Tell him a year is almost up. Tell him to wash his neck clean and wait for me to behead him. Ignoring the crying Ma Zai and the unconscious Huang Shu, Yi Fei turned and headed towards the Sword Peak. The surrounding mountain river list disciples looked at each other. None of them had the guts to stop Yi Fei. Just as Yi Fei passed by them and was about to rush to the Sword Peak, boom! The entire small world suddenly released an enormous pressure and anger. Following that, a vigorous voice exploded in everyone's ears. What a vile creature! As an abandoned disciple of the sacred land, you actually dare to destroy the small world and humiliate a true disciple of the sacred land. Yi Fei, you deserve to die. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The sky trembled. With that said, a gigantic palm of true essence was already flying towards Yi Fei. It was as though Yi Fei was an ant, smashing him to the ground. 10 elders of the sacred land dressed in red robes stood in a row, blocking Yi Fei's path. The leader of the elders with the strongest qi had already attacked Yi Fei without saying a word. He was about to mercilessly suppress Yi Fei. Humph! You are just a mediocre talent. How dare you challenge the strongest genius of the Taishan Holy Land? You are so arrogant. Nan Ruofeng doesn't even need to kill you. Any one of the 10 red-robed elders can kill you. Another red-robed elder attacked, forming a sword aura that surrounded all 4 directions, sealing off all possible paths of retreat for Yi Fei. Fool, you should not have come back. The current Taishan sacred land no longer has a place for you. Leave. With your talent in this lifetime, you will never be Nan Ruofeng's opponent. The red-robed elder who had once presided over the mountain river list was kind-hearted. He released a gale of wind, as though he wanted to be the first to blow Yi Fei out of Taishan sacred land. Junior brother Du, what is the meaning of this? He is an abandoned disciple of the sacred land and is Nan Ruofeng's enemy. Since he has barged in, there is only one outcome for him, and that is death. Chapter 413. Ruthless Suppression. Yi Fei had expected that he would not enter the Sword Peak so easily when he returned to the sacred land this time. However, He had not expected the sacred land to be in such a state. You elders don't know how to stand up for your disciples. You want to suppress me without distinguishing between right and wrong. Is it because Nan Ruofing is a genius and I am ordinary? Yi Fei's face was filled with anger. The red-robed elder who had attacked had a ferocious look on his face. That's right. You are a mediocre and useless person. You should just obediently be an ant. Do you think you are worthy of challenging Nan Ruofing? Why aren't you kneeling down before me? How long are you going to wait? The red-robed elder did not even look at Yi Fei. The aura of a rank 10 martial honorable had already locked Yi Fei in place. At the same time, he pressed his hand down on Yi Fei's shoulder. Rumble. The elder's strength was terrifying. The space shook as he pressed down on Yi Fei and forced him to kneel in front of him. It was obvious that the red-robed elder had seen how Yi Fei had dealt with Ma Zai. Now, he wanted to suppress Yi Fei in the same way. Yi Fei immediately laughed, a disdainful sneer on his face. His body was like a mountain peak, like the tip of a sword. It was incomparably fierce and sharp. Boom! When the elder's hand landed on Yi Fei's body, it felt like he was not slapping a person, but a mountain that stood between the heavens and earth. He could not move it, nor could he shatter it. Yi Fei's body was as still as a mountain. At the same time, he pressed his hand down on the elder's shoulder. Boom! Boom! The heavens and earth shook violently. The elder's body shook violently. His face turned red as he mustered all his strength in an attempt to resist Yi Fei's strength. However, the reality was that his body was instantly pressed down from the sky by Yi Fei. His knees went soft and he was completely suppressed by Yi Fei. He knelt in front of Yi Fei in humiliation and anger. The whole place was dead silent. The 9 red-robed elders widened their eyes in disbelief. They were supposed to suppress Yi Fei, an elder who had abandoned the Holy Land. But in the end, they were suppressed by Yi Fei. F***ck, are we seeing things? This Yi Fei is so ferocious that he can even suppress an elder? Rank 10 Martial Honorable Realm. Needless to say, Yi Fei must be a rank 10 Martial Honorable. That's insane. Reaching the 10th layer Martial Highness Realm from the half Martial Highness Realm in a year's time. Even Nan Ruofing wasn't this powerful when he was at the same cultivation level. After a moment of silence, the Taishan Holy Land was in an uproar. More and more elders and disciples rushed over, unwilling to miss this scene. Now, do you still want to suppress me? Yi Fei looked at the elder kneeling in front of him and the other 9 red-robed elders in the sky. They were all rank 10 martial honorable realm experts, and many of them were close to becoming martial kings. However, at this moment, their faces were ashen. The elder who was kneeling in front of Yi Fei was so angry that his entire body trembled. An elder of the Holy Land had actually been suppressed by an abandoned disciple. This was no longer as simple as slapping their faces. It was more like someone had kicked them in the face. This evil creature is indeed crazy and lawless. Yi Fei, we admit that you have some talent. However, compared to Nan Ruofing, you are not even comparable to an ant on the ground. Abandoned disciple, do you think that you are amazing just because you have broken through to the rank 10 martial honorable realm? Yi Fei suddenly shouted angrily, all of you, shut up. You bunch of old farts, not only are your eyes dim, even your brains are muddled. If you have time to talk nonsense, why don't you have a good fight? Didn't you want to suppress me? You 9 old farts, come at me together. If you can make me move a single step, I, Yi Fei, will destroy my martial arts on the spot and leave the Holy Land. Walking back into the sky, Yi Fei looked at everything with disdain. He clasped his hands behind his back and looked up at the sky. A shocking battle intent surged from Yi Fei's body. All the elders were enraged by Yi Fei's words. All the disciples were frightened by Yi Fei's words. What had they heard? Yi Fei actually wanted to challenge 9 elders of the rank 10 martial honorable realm alone. Even Luo Shi was frightened by Yi Fei's courage. Then, he looked at Yi Fei with admiration. On the sword peak, Jing Wushou excitedly gulped down the jar of wine in his hand. He looked anxiously at the elder beside him and said, "Master, Yi Fei is awesome. I have been annoyed by these old farts for a long time. Why don't I go and help him?" The elder did not say anything. He only squinted his eyes and watched the battle from the other mountain peaks. Many figures appeared on the other mountain peaks and watched silently. However, no one made a move. Then, the 8 elders in red robes roared furiously, and their roars echoed throughout the small world. "Yi Fei, you bastard! Today, I will make an exception and show you what we can do." Outrageous, outrageous! This bastard must have gone mad. If I don't kill him, I won't be able to swallow this anger. Senior brothers, don't say any more. I don't believe that the 8 of us together can't suppress this arrogant bastard. Rumble. The attacks of the 8 rank 10 martial honorables were terrifying. The martial ancestor realm disciples did not even have the chance to watch the battle as they were blown far away. The disciples and elders who remained in their original positions were shocked. Judging from the auras, they knew that the 8 elders in red robes were furious. How could Yi Fei withstand such an attack? If the 8 of them worked together, they would be able to severely injure Yi Fei. Everyone looked at Yi Fei and thought that he was going to use some powerful treasure. This was the only reason why Yi Fei dared to challenge the 8 elders. Yi Fei only raised his hand and slowly threw out a punch. It was firm and powerful. He only threw out a punch and did not use any treasure. How is this possible? Does Yi Fei think that he can defeat the 8 elders with just martial arts? No, it's not as simple as martial arts. There's also fist intent. It's a 60% slaughter fist intent. Some of the elders had already noticed that Yi Fei's aura was not normal. It was obviously a martial will. It was not the devouring sword intent that Yi Fei was familiar with. It was a brand new slaughter fist intent. Dual martial wills? This can't be true. Isn't this brat a rank 1 Earth class trash, who doesn't even have a special body constitution? How could he have comprehended dual martial wills? The 8 elders in red robes were shocked, and they even forgot to attack Yi Fei together. Of course, this was also because they did not think that Yi Fei had the strength to defeat them. Trash? Trash? You are indeed a bunch of old fools. Since you don't want to team up, I will force you to. Yi Fei's face was filled with disdain as his 60% slaughter fist intent exploded out. Sacred martial art, Sky Demon Kill. Boom, boom, boom. Yi Fei instantly threw out 8 huge demonic fists at the 8 elders in a single breath. This caused the 8 elders to break out in cold sweat. As the sworn enemies of the Heavenly Een cult, they naturally knew that the Sky Demon Kill was a legacy martial art of the Heavenly Een cult. Now, it had fallen into Yi Fei's hands. There was only one possibility. Yi Fei had killed the Heavenly Een cult's pursuers and obtained their legacy martial art. Suddenly, a great fear struck the elders' hearts. Not good. Let's team up. We can't lose to this abandoned disciple. It's too late. Bang, bang, bang. 8 demonic fists continuously smashed onto the bodies of the 8 red-robed elders. No matter what kind of martial arts or treasures they used to resist, they were unable to withstand the immense power of Yi Feitian's demonic slaughter. As a result, they couldn't even hold on for a breath. The 8 elders were all smashed by Yi Fei until they vomited blood and fell from the sky. Before they could struggle to get up, Yi Fei stood in the air and suddenly released his king's aura. All of you, kneel on the ground and wake up! Roar! The 8 elders all let out angry and humiliated roars. However, under the martial king's aura, they might have been able to resist if they were not injured. Now that they had all been injured by Yi Fei, they had lost their last chance to resist. Thus, under the gaze of countless disciples of the sacred land, 9 of the 10 elders who had rushed over to stop Yi Fei were beaten to the ground by Yi Fei, unable to move. Two of the elders were so angry that they vomited blood and fainted the moment they knelt down. The remaining elders were so angry that their faces turned black and smoke came out of their nostrils. They could only look at Yi Fei in anger and fear. Chapter 4:14. Attitude changes. Martial King. Yi Fei has already broken through to Martial King? Boom, boom, boom. Hearing the elder's words and feeling the suffocating aura of a king from Yi Fei, all the disciples and elders in the Taishan sacred ground were dumbfounded. Did we hear wrongly? Yi Fei is actually a martial king? How could we be wrong? If he wasn't a martial king, how could he suppress all 9 red-robed elders at the same time? This can't be true. When Yi Fei left the sacred ground, he hadn't even broken through to the martial venerable realm. How could he have broken through to martial king in just a year? Even Nan Ruofeng can't be so heaven-defying. Hiss. It would have been better if these disciples hadn't compared Nan Ruofeng to Yi Fei. Now that they did, they realized how monstrous Yi Fei really was. How terrifying Yi Fei's progress was. Martial King, he's actually a martial king. No wonder this kid dared to return to the sacred ground. Fortunately, I didn't act rashly and fight with him. Elder Du looked at his 9 companions kneeling on the ground and couldn't help but secretly rejoice. His slight hesitation had saved the red-robed elder's last shred of dignity. Otherwise, it wouldn't be 9 of them kneeling on the ground, but 10 elders. They would all be wiped out. What, a martial king? Yi Fei is actually a martial king? I don't believe it. How could he be a martial king? He definitely can't be a martial king. Huang Shu was awakened by the noise around him. Hearing everyone's discussion and looking at Yi Fei, who was exuding the aura of a king, Huang Shu lifted his swollen face and roared. The pain and fear had already made him faint again. Ma Zai was also terrified. Even if he was beaten to death, he would never have thought that Yi Fei would really return to the sacred ground within a year and break through to Martial King. Martial King was the most important watershed for warriors. Only by becoming a martial king could one step into the peak of martial art. If one couldn't become a martial king, no matter how talented he was just an ant. I hate it. Ma Zai looked up at the sky and sighed. He had already given up his dignity and became Nan Ruofeng's dog. In the end, he still couldn't compare to Yi Fei. Suddenly, Ma Zai's heart was filled with fear and regret. He regretted that he didn't kill Yi Fei before Yi Fei grew up. Of course, Ma Zai wasn't the only one who was filled with regret. Shangguan Lu's intestines were already green with regret. He regretted being indecisive and refusing Yi Fei's invitation. As a result, he lost the best opportunity to get closer to Yi Fei. Damn it, why am I so stupid? Even the 10th prince can stand firmly on Yi Fei's side, so why can't I? Oh right, 10th prince. Shangguan Lu racked his brains. Although he had missed the opportunity to befriend Yi Fei, with his special relationship with the 10th prince, joining Yi Fei's camp was not a big problem. Yes, that's what we'll do. In any case, I was originally the 10th prince's subordinate, so returning to the 10th prince's side is only natural. Shangguan Lu had already decided that even if he had to be thick-skinned, he had to stand firm this time. Bang! Suddenly, there was the sound of a wine jar shattering on Sword Peak. Jing Wushou's eyes widened as he felt the king's aura released by Yi Fei. Martial King, that's a martial king. Even though I know that Sword Peak is filled with monsters, junior brother Yi is too much of a monster. In a year's time, breaking through to the rank 10 martial honorable realm is already very scary. Junior brother Yi actually managed to break through to the martial king realm. Master, no wonder you didn't let me take action. Sword Peak will definitely prosper with junior brother Ye's help. After the shock, Jing Wushou became happy again. However, He did not notice that the enigmatic sword maniac elder's mouth twitched violently and sweat appeared on his forehead when he saw Yi Fei's rank 1 martial king's strength. Obviously, even sword maniac elder did not expect Yi Fei to break through to martial king realm so quickly. Like everyone else, he guessed that Yi Fei had obtained some powerful treasure. However, sword maniac elder's guess was not wrong. Yi Fei had indeed obtained an extremely powerful treasure. It was a sacred weapon. However, once it was revealed, not only Tai Xian's sacred lands, but even the entire north region would be in an uproar. With Yi Fei's current strength, he could obviously sense the gazes of many people on the mountain peaks. However, Yi Fei did not care. He only nodded lightly at a mountain peak that was emitting blade qi. Yan Bei, who was also standing on the mountain peak, trembled when he saw this scene. He knew that Yi Fei had already noticed him and even greeted him. Yan Bei's heart was filled with a huge sense of frustration. Originally, he was extremely arrogant. He thought that in the sacred lands, other than Nan Ruofeng and Jing Wushou, he would definitely be ranked 3rd. Even when Yi Fei obtained 1st place in the Mountain River list, Yan Bei did not change his mind. After all, Yi Fei did not have a special body constitution and was naturally inferior. Yan Bei also believed that as long as he worked hard, he would definitely be able to catch up to Yi Fei. However, now, looking at Yi Fei, who was dressed in a crescent white robe, standing proudly in the sky, Yan Bei finally lowered his head helplessly and bitterly towards Yi Fei. He knew that from now on, he could only look up to Yi Fei. Yi Fei, you are very strong. However, I will not lose to you. Even if I die from exhaustion, I will do my best to catch up to you. In the crowd, Gu Man clenched his fists tightly. He was extremely unconvinced. They were both newcomers to Tai Xian's sacred lands. Why was Yi Fei able to break through to martial king realm while he, Gu Man, could only struggle bitterly in martial ancestor realm? Gu Man was extremely uncomfortable. Gu Man wasn't the only one who felt uncomfortable. He stood in the sky and waited for a while. When he realized that there were still no elders coming to deal with him, and that Nan Ruofeng did not appear, he retracted his martial king aura and turned to head towards Sword Peak. Yi Fei, wait! Elder Du saw that Yi Fei was about to leave and hurriedly called out to Yi Fei. Why? Does the elder not like me and want to suppress me? Yi Fei turned his head and looked at the last red-robed elder. Elder Du felt very sullen. However, when he thought of Yi Fei's martial king realm strength, he was not someone that the red-robed elders could provoke. Elder Du could only suppress his anger and force a smile on his face. He then pointed to his companions who were still kneeling on the ground. Cough, cough. Yi Fei, I don't object to you going to Sword Peak. However, they are elders after all. Even if they were wrong, you have already taught them a lesson. Do you think you should let them get up? Elder Du said helplessly. The 9 kneeling companions were still imprisoned by Yi Fei. Unless another martial king acted, Elder Du would not be able to lift Yi Fei's martial king realm imprisonment by himself. As the saying goes, one does not hit a smiling person. After all, Sword Peak was also a part of the Holy Land. Since the elders had already admitted defeat, Yi Fei nodded. He waved his hand and dispersed the martial king aura on these elders. He said, "This time, I will teach you a lesson. As for Nan Ruofeng, why didn't he appear?" "Senior brother Yi, are you asking about Nan Ruofeng? I know about him. I heard that he went to the Heavenly Yin Church with a few martial king elders to discuss the matter of mutual non-aggression. He will only return after a period of time," Shangguan Lu said shamelessly as he walked over. Shangguan Lu felt that this was an opportunity to make friends with Yi Fei. He did not wait for Elder Du to speak and rushed over to explain. Yi Fei also vaguely understood Shangguan Lu's plan. However, seeing that Shangguan Lu had performed well just now, he nodded his head. "I see. Thank you very much. If you have time, remember to come to Sword Peak." Chapter 4:15. Sword Peak Master, Old Master Jian, Senior Brother Jing, I'm back. Yi Fei quickly walked over and bowed deeply to Sword Maniac Elder and Jing Wushou. Although Yi Fei was no longer a member of the Sacred Ground, in Yi Fei's heart, he would always be a member of the Sword Peak. The Sword Peak was also like the Sacred Ground, fundamentally different. In Yi Fei's eyes, Sword Maniac Elder was a very respectable elder, and Jing Wushou was also a very respectable senior brother. Ha, junior brother Yi, you really gave me a fright when you broke through to the Martial King realm. Now that you're in front of me, how can I still dare to call myself senior brother? Jing Wushou walked over and deliberately said with a sour tone. He was very happy in his heart. Sword Maniac Elder also looked at Yi Fei with a smile. The master and disciple looked at each other again. Obviously, when Yi Fei came to the Sword Peak, they had already discussed something. Yi Fei, come with me to the peak to fight. Sword Maniac Elder threw a wooden sword to Yi Fei and took the lead to go to the peak. A year ago, Sword Maniac Elder had guided Yi Fei to comprehend the heart integrated into sword here. Could it be that Sword Maniac Elder was going to teach him some powerful sword principle again? Thinking about it, Yi Fei also became excited. He happily grabbed the wooden sword and walked to the peak step by step, saying, Old Master Jian, please show mercy. This old man is here to see how much you've improved in the past year. Sword Maniac Elder's body released a fierce sword light, which then rapidly weakened. Soon, Sword Maniac Elder suppressed his cultivation to the LV1 Martial King realm, and his sword intent became the same as Yi Fei's 60% sword intent. Yi Fei, be careful. Sword Maniac Elder began to attack. His swordsmanship was very slow, but it was filled with mountain-like pressure. The sword light imprisoned the nearby space. In the end, even the world slowed down under Sword Maniac Elder's sword light. When Luo Shi saw Sword Maniac Elder's swordsmanship, he suddenly felt his mind become sluggish, as if he was about to stop thinking. His eyes were filled with shock. What kind of sword technique is this? I feel that it's a bit similar to Brother Fei's heaven-burying sword, but it's also very different. This is the strongest swordsmanship of our Taishan Holy Land, the heaven-sealing sword. But Master chose to attack first. It seems that junior brother Yi has become very strong this year. While Jing Wushou and Luo Shi were talking, they sensed the commotion on Sword Peak. Another group of people quickly rushed over. These people were none other than the 10th Prince and Shifeng. Qi Chuchu, Lin Sen, and Yang Xiao had also returned to the Sword Peak. At the same time, the shameless Shangguan Lu also came over. They all stood aside excitedly and watched the battle. Heaven-sealing sword. Could it be that this is the emperor-level sword art that the first Holy Lord of the Holy Land created based on the heaven burial style? When Yi Fei heard Jing Wushou's words, a strong fighting spirit suddenly emerged from his body. I want to see if my heaven's burial style is stronger or if this heaven-sealing sword is stronger. Heaven-burying sword. Boom. An intense sword light appeared around Yi Fei's body as he rushed towards the Sword Maniac Elder. Using shackles against shackles, he instantly negated the pressure around him and stabbed out, suppressing the Sword Maniac Elder. As expected of the great Emperor's swordsmanship. However, my sword is not so easy to defeat. Heaven-sealing sword. Sword Maniac Elder also rushed towards Yi Fei. The ordinary wooden sword seemed to contain a strange power in the Sword Maniac Elder's hand. It actually managed to negate the power of the Heaven's burial sword. As a result, even if Yi Fei's sword sealed the surrounding heaven and earth, it could not seal the Sword Maniac Elder's body. Boom. Yi Fei and Sword Maniac Elder fought on the peak. Both of them were Martial King realm experts and experts in the way of the sword. When they were at the same level, it was difficult to determine the winner in a short time. The two of them fought for 3 days and 3 nights, attracting the attention of countless people in the Taishan sacred ground. Unfortunately, there was a special restriction on the Sword Peak. Unless Sword Maniac Elder allowed it, no one below the Martial King realm could watch the fight. Even Jing Wushou and the others could only see Yi Fei and Sword Maniac Elder's figures at the beginning. When Yi Fei and Sword Maniac Elder's battle broke out in the dark night sky, they could not see anything. They could only see the terrifying sword light flashing in the night sky. Then, they could guess who had the upper hand based on the strength of the sword light. Lin Sun and Yang Xiao, who had just experienced the battle, were even more shocked. I didn't expect Yi Fei to become so strong. Humph. Look at who chose junior brother Yi. We are all from the Sword Peak. It's normal for us to be abnormal. Jing Wushou drank wine and ate barbecued meat as he watched the flashing sword light in the sky. Qi Chuchu suddenly walked over and asked Jing Wushou, "Jing Wushou, are you a pervert?" In the dark night, looking at Qi Chuchu's sparkling eyes, even the forthright Jing Wushou could not help but blush. He almost choked to death on the wine in his mouth. It was a pity that no one was destined to see this scene. The 10th Prince and the others were also paying attention to the changes in the sword light on the middle peak, although they did not know how the battle on the Sword Peak was progressing. This battle lasted for a total of 4 days before it finally came to an end. When Yi Fei walked down from the peak, he was so tired that he almost collapsed. However, his eyes became brighter and brighter. Yi Fei had undoubtedly gained a lot from the battle with Sword Maniac Elder. He felt a kind of satisfaction. The first thing Yi Fei did when he walked down the mountain was to grab a jar of wine and drink it in one gulp. "Great! This is great," Yi Fei said as he drank. Jing Wushou also came over and asked, "Junior brother, who won the battle between you and our master?" "Neither won nor lost," Yi Fei said with a sigh. In the 3-day battle, he could not defeat Sword Maniac Elder, and Sword Maniac Elder could not defeat him. This was undoubtedly very depressing. When the 10th Prince and the others heard this, they felt as if they had been beaten black and blue. If they remembered correctly, a year ago, Yi Fei had been beaten by the Sword Maniac Elder at the same level. A year later, Yi Fei was actually able to tie with the Sword Maniac Elder. Sure enough, Sword Peak is full of abnormal people. Qi Chuchu could not help but say, her eyes still fixed on Jing Wushou. Jing Wushou quickly lowered his head and drank silently. At this time, Yi Fei and the others present felt that the atmosphere between the two was a little strange. However, before they could start gossiping, on Sword Peak, Sword Maniac Elder sighed and threw away the broken wooden sword in his hand. Suddenly, he became excited again and simply released the restriction of Sword Peak. Facing the entire Taishan Holy Land, he began to issue orders. Pass down the order of Sword Peak. From today onwards, I will abdicate my position and announce that Yi Fei will take over the position of Peak Master of Sword Peak. Boom! His booming voice shook the entire Taishan Holy Land. Whether it was the outer sect, the inner sect, the peaks of the successor disciples, or some experts of the Holy Land who were in seclusion, they all heard Sword Maniac Elder's words. It was also this sentence that caused the entire Taishan Holy Land to boil in an instant. What? Yi Fei will take over Sword Peak? This is outrageous. He is just an abandoned disciple of the Holy Land. What right does he have to take over the strongest Sword Peak of our Holy Land? The red-robed elders who had been suppressed by Yi Fei were really angry and angry. Sword Peak was different from other peaks. It was the most special peak of the Holy Land and also the strongest peak. It usually looked inconspicuous, but there was a very special thing about Sword Peak. The Peak Master of Sword Peak had the same status and power as the successor disciples of the Holy Land. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.